Chapter 379. The situation was a little tense. It made sense. How could the high and mighty crown prince of Disheng Financial Group remember a mere provincial governor's daughter? This woman was the daughter of the Jianghu provincial governor, Yi Minglan. She had originally booked this private room at a high price to entertain her good friend who had just returned to the country. However, when she arrived, she was politely asked to leave the room by the manager. She had come to look for her aggressively, but she did not expect that the person who had occupied her private room would be Chairman Mu. One had to know that Mu Yaja rarely ate at such a small restaurant. Moreover, in her impression, this man was very busy every day. How could he have the time to be so carefree? Yi Minglan was overjoyed to be able to meet him here. However, after being pleasantly surprised, the woman's gaze turned to Yunshishir with some suspicion. Who was the little girl sitting next to him? She was dressed like a pure student and looked very well behaved. She did not look like a young lady from any family. She seemed to be a commoner. Yi Minglan was a little surprised. For someone like young Master Mu, as long as he wanted, those international supermodels, movie queens, and even upper-class socialites would all fall in love with him. However, this girl had a young face. She looked like she had just graduated from university. However, even though she boasted that she was picky, she had to admit that this young girl in front of her was unbelievably good-looking. Her skin was fair, her eyes were bright, her lips were red, and her teeth were white. Even without makeup, she was already very charming. If such a lovely girl were to be thrown into her circle, many men would fight over her. Yunshishir felt uncomfortable being stared at by her. She looked up and felt a burning gaze on her. She followed the gaze and saw the man beside the woman staring at her. Rather than saying that he was sizing her up, it was more accurate to say that his gaze looked as if he wanted to skin her alive. The man was tall and handsome. He was dressed casually, but he exuded an aristocratic aura. His status had always been either rich or noble. When their gazes met, Yunshishir subconsciously turned her face away. She was instantly disgusted by these two people who had suddenly barged in. Yi Minglan smiled brightly and asked in a sweet voice, "Master Mu, do you still remember me? My father is Yi Qicheng, and he should have some friendship with you." "Oh, right. If you don't mind, let's sit at the same table. Look, at this time, there aren't any private rooms in the restaurant that are empty." The private room that I originally booked has also been." She spoke very tactfully, but she did not lose her sense of propriety as she politely made a suggestion. Mu Yaja remained calm and collected. He neither nodded nor refused, as if he had tacitly agreed. Yi Minglan was a little overwhelmed by the favor. She tentatively took a step forward. Seeing that his face was still calm, her heart finally calmed down. Her eyes immediately lit up with joy as she entered the private room with the man. Mu Yaja did not have much of an impression of Yi Minglan. They were not familiar with each other and did not interact much with each other. However, her father, Yi Qicheng, was someone who had close contact with him. Based on this point, he could not reject Yi Minglan. Yunshishir was a little unhappy and did not want to eat at the same table as the two of them. She did not like these two people. Especially that woman. Her gaze just now was as if she wanted to cut her into pieces. Chapter 380. She had to admit that she was a little upset. What made her even more upset was that he had allowed them to sit at the same table. Upset. But what could she do? She could not chase him away. She did not have the right to do so. She was just freeloading. She picked up her chopsticks but lost her appetite. Yi Minglan sat down and smiled. "Young Master Mu, let me introduce you. This is the eldest son of the Li group, Li Chengza." Then, she smiled and turned to the man beside her. "Chengza, I've mentioned this to you before. He's the famous CEO of Disheng Financial Group and a legendary figure in Beijing, Mu Yaja. We all call him Young Master Mu." As he spoke, he completely ignored Unspoken at the side. Unspoken was also happy to have some peace. "Young Master Mu, I've heard a lot about you." Xianxia smiled and nodded. He stood up slightly and extended his hand politely. Wuxia glanced coldly at his outstretched hand, but his expression did not change. Xianxia's hand froze in midair. He could neither extend it nor retract it. Just as the atmosphere froze, Wuxia extended his hand indifferently and held it gently. He did not even bend his fingers. His cold and distant attitude made Xianxia feel awkward. This man was as arrogant as a ruler. Although his status was not as high as Wuxia's, not many people in the capital dared to give him the cold shoulder. Most of them would respectfully smile apologetically at him, yet this man was so cold and arrogant at their first meeting. It really made him feel embarrassed. Yiminglan smiled to ease the atmosphere and looked at Unspoken. "Huh. Young Master Mu, this lady is. You don't have to know." Unexpectedly, the man's cold words stopped her enthusiasm. He did not like to tell unimportant people about his private affairs. However, his ambiguous attitude became another form of protection in Yiminglan's eyes. Yiminglan could not put her face down for a moment, but due to Wuxia's status, she could only smile apologetically and find a way out of this embarrassing situation. "This little girl is quite pretty." Although he was smiling on the outside, his heart was filled with jealousy and hatred. At least in her opinion, this girl had a high status by Wuxia's side. The moment Yiminglan mentioned Unspoken, the unhappiness in Xianxia's heart immediately disappeared, and he looked at her with an ambiguous gaze. To be honest, he was quite interested in this girl. Not only did she have a stunning and elegant appearance, but she also had a pair of stubborn eyes that could invisibly arouse a man's desire to conquer her. It was said that there were two types of women that men could not refuse. One was a woman who was as pure as water, without a trace of impurity. The other was a woman who aroused a man's desire to conquer. As luck would have it, Unspoken was exposed to both. Come to think of it, this Wuxia really didn't know what kind of ability he had. It was rumored that he didn't get close to women, but who would have thought that in private, he was actually keeping such a beautiful woman in captivity. It was really enviable. At that time, the two of them had their own thoughts about Unspoken. Xianxia kind of wanted to have a taste of this girl. However, seeing that such a lovely person had already been taken, he could only watch. What kind of woman had he not had? However, they were not as attractive as this girl. Since she was Wuxia's woman and he couldn't touch her, there was nothing he could do. He could only hope that when young Master Mu got tired of her, he would snatch her away. Chapter 381. Xianxia smiled at her gracefully and gently asked, "Which family's daughter is this lovely young lady from?" Unspoken was stunned and did not want to bother with him. What daughter? She did not have such a noble background. Her indifference did not want to arouse his interest. Xianxia mistakenly thought that she was shy, so he softened his voice. "How should I address you?" Yiminglan was completely ignored. Her face was expressionless, but she scolded him in her heart. A man will be a man. Once he sees a beautiful prey, he loses his soul. How dare he covet young Master Mu's woman? Did he eat a bear's heart or a leopard's guts? Unspoken shot a glance at the aloof Wuxia beside her and smiled mischievously. Her eyebrows curved into crescents, and her lips, stained with red wine, were tender and plump. When she smiled, she looked seductive and bewitching. Why should I tell you? After that, she ignored him. Interesting. This girl is quite interesting. She is quite arrogant. Xianxia was thinking about her, but Yiminglan secretly rolled her eyes and warned him not to go overboard. She did not want to make young Master Mu unhappy. Afraid of him? Xianxia had been spoiled since he was young and grew up in the palm of his hand. He was a typical hedonistic second generation and was used to being arrogant. Why would he put this young Master Mu in his eyes? The Mu family? They were just the descendants of a prestigious family. Now that generations had changed and old Master Mu was old, how could this brat cover the sky with one hand? The Li family was one of the wealthiest families in the capital. Everyone in the family was not easy to deal with. Unspoken did not know what he was scheming. She felt Yi Minglan's piercing and venomous gaze and saw doubt and hatred in her eyes. She was unjustly implicated, but she could not just lie down for nothing, right? If she wanted to lie down, she might as well lie down until the end. Hence, under Yi Minglan's gaze, she used her arm to nudge Mu Yaja and said in a sweet voice, "Why don't you peel a lobster for me?" Mu Yaja had always been good at scheming in the business world. How could he not know what she was thinking? He looked at her coldly from the corner of his eyes, as if warning her not to play any tricks. He had never served anyone in his entire life. Having failed, Unspoken's entire face turned a little gloomy. Why didn't this man cooperate at all? On the other hand, Yi Minglan looked satisfied. It seemed that this girl didn't know her limits. Did she think that she was young Master Mu's woman and wanted a mile after taking an inch? When had she ever seen young Master Mu serving anyone? She put down her chopsticks and lost her appetite completely. She drank the iced drink beside her in one gulp. As soon as she drank it, she felt an inexplicable swelling pain in her lower abdomen. She was still angry and didn't pay much attention to it. However, after a while, she clearly felt something strange in her lower abdomen. A warm and moist feeling caused her expression to change drastically. Even her entire body was petrified. Oh no, it couldn't be, right? Could it be, that thing is coming? As she hesitated, her heart was filled with apprehension. She felt like she was sitting on a pincushion, and her entire body was stiff and motionless. However, that feeling was getting more and more obvious. Unspoken's face suddenly turned hot. Just as she was about to get up and go to the bathroom to check out what was going on, she saw a small patch of red on the stool from the corner of her eye. Her face immediately turned hot and she sat down again. Oh my God! How embarrassing! Unspoken simply wanted to cry but had no tears to shed. What was so embarrassing? Oh, and it had to be in front of this man. Moreover, there were outsiders present. Unspoken simply wanted to dig a hole and hide in it. Chapter 382. Unspoken couldn't bring herself to say it. He still didn't know how to solve such a difficult problem. Mu Yaja was surprised to see her face flushed red and her eyes narrowed. Mu Yaja. She leaned into the crook of his arm, half of her body leaning on him, and begged in a low voice, "Can you let them go?" Yi Minglan was stunned. She was the first woman who dared to call Mu Yaja by his full name. And the only one. The man didn't seem to be angry. However, when Yi Minglan and Li Chengze heard the second half of the sentence, both of them were stunned. They didn't expect this girl to be so rude. What they did not expect, however, was for Mu Yaja to look at them coldly the moment they finished speaking. Although he did not say anything, his cold gaze seemed to be ordering them to leave. Yi Minglan was embarrassed. When had she ever been humiliated like this? Even so, she had to smooth things over for herself. She stood up and said to Mu Yaja, "Young Master Mu, I just remembered that I have something to do with Li Chengze now. I won't disturb you anymore." As she spoke, she glared at Unspoken. Seeing that Li Chengze was still in a daze, she pushed him and said, "Chengze, let's go." Li Chengze came back to his senses and stood up to leave with her. When the two of them walked out, Li Chengze's face was full of bad luck. When had he ever been humiliated like this? However, even though he was indignant, he still couldn't forget Unspoken. "You're still thinking about her? I say, you're really bold. How dare you think about young Master Mu's woman? If young Master Mu finds out about this, you'll have to bear the consequences. You're praising her so highly. I just can't stand it. Is the He family that great?" Li Chengza was embarrassed by her sarcasm. Humph. I'm talking about you. Young Master Mu, young Master Mu. Why? Are you interested in her? Minglan, it's not that I want to nag at you, but even if you like him, he might not like you. You. It's none of your business. Yi Minglan was so angry that it was difficult to distinguish between green and red. She angrily stomped her feet and left. Li Chengza turned around and glanced at the private room. The corners of his mouth curled into a sinister smile. He had long harbored designs on Yun Shishir. Silence returned to the room. Yun Shishir clutched her stomach and leaned on the table. Her lower abdomen was in severe cramping pain. She was in so much pain that her eyebrows were tightly knitted together. Her face was unbelievably distorted, and her entire face was deathly pale. Cold sweat trickled down his back, he didn't even have the strength to speak. I'm going to die, what a tragedy. Every time her period came, her stomach would always hurt. When it hurt, she would toss and turn in bed. Even using a hot water bottle to cover it didn't help. This time was no exception. What made her even more anxious was that she had returned so suddenly, especially in front of this man. What was worse was that she was wearing a dress. It was fine, but now she was even stained on the stool. How could she have the nerve to move her butt? It was simply too embarrassing. At the thought of this, Yun Shishir's face was so red that it was about to bleed. She couldn't even cry. Mu Yaja raised his eyebrows when he saw her pale face and cold sweat on her forehead. Are you not feeling well? When he asked this, Yun Shishir was embarrassed and scared. She stammered, Mu Yaja, can you go out for a while? Go out? What was this woman up to again? What's wrong? She forced a smile and said, "Io. No, I'm fine." Chapter 383. Mu Yaja stared at her coldly for a long time and lost his patience. He thought that she was feeling unwell but was too stubborn to tell him. Thus, he went forward without thinking and put his arm around her waist and knees, hugging her in his arms. However, she screamed. Ah! It was so sharp and ear-piercing that it almost broke his eardrums. Shut up. Mu Yaja frowned unhappily. She was so frightened that she choked. Shut up. After half a second of silence, suddenly, Mu Yaja. Her voice was as soft as a sheep's. What's wrong? He looked down and saw that her face was strangely flushed. Mu Yaja suddenly sensed that something was wrong. He glanced at the stool and saw the glaring red blood on it. His heart skipped a beat and he looked at her. Blood? She was injured? What happened? Yun Shishir was so embarrassed that her face was turning redder. She was afraid that she would get the stain on him and was so anxious that she was about to cry. She almost cried out, Mu Yaja, put me down. He ignored her and looked even more gloomy. He only asked, where are you hurt? Yun Shishir rolled her eyes weakly. Her face was so hot that it was unreasonable. She replied in a soft voice, No, I'm not hurt anywhere, you're not going to tell me? The man's eyes were sharp and his tone was irresistible. I'll take you to the hospital. F***ck. Go to the hospital? She didn't think so. She hurriedly grabbed his collar and stammered, My period is here. Her voice was so soft that Mu Yaja didn't hear her at all. Seeing that the man was still holding her and walking out of the door, Yun Shishir was so angry that she collapsed. She was so anxious that she wanted to scratch him. What should she do? She mustered her courage and raised her voice slightly. Mu Yaja, my period is here today. The man suddenly stopped in his tracks. She said mischievously, So, we don't have to go to the hospital. Just help me buy some hygiene products. Seeing that he didn't respond for a long time, Yun Shishir hesitated and said softly, I'll use Sophie's brand. A deathly silence followed. She saw that Mu Yaja's face had completely darkened. Was there anything more tragic than this? She originally thought that the atmosphere would continue like this, but she didn't expect the man to pick up the suit jacket on the back of the chair with one hand and cover her body with it. Her body was completely covered, and he hugged her and walked out of the door. Yunshursher was a little flustered. He didn't know where he was going to take her. He wouldn't take her to the hospital, would he? Mu Yaja? Where are you going? Go to the hotel and change your clothes. His words were concise, but his cold words made her feel inexplicably at ease. Yunshursher heaved a sigh of relief and calmed down. She felt a little embarrassed from all the attention she had received along the way. She lowered her head and snuggled into his chest. Hot, resolute, and fit. Through the shirt, that beating heartbeat was so powerful. Thump. Thump, it was so clear and intimate that her breathing became chaotic. However, she felt warm in her heart. She still remembered that when she first had her period, she didn't know anything and had panicked. She had been in so much pain that she had tossed and turned in bed. Her father had bought sanitary pads for her and brought her hot tea. He had rubbed her abdomen through her clothes. She had never been so intimate with a man other than her father, not to mention that the man in front of her was Mu Yaja. Chapter 384. She sneaked a peek at his extraordinarily handsome side profile. His high nose bridge, cold thin lips, arrogant chin, and the slightly open collar of his shirt, revealing his sexy and distinct collarbones. He was like a god who had walked out of an ancient Greek mural. Every stroke of his was like the outline of a work of the gods. He was extremely handsome. She couldn't help but admit that if she put aside his bad behavior, she might really be attracted to him. As she stared at him in a daze, Mu Yaja sensed that she was looking at him intently. He frowned and lowered his eyes, his expression cold. What's wrong? Yunshursher was stunned. She quickly collected her thoughts and turned her face away from him. She actually tasted a little sweetness in her heart. Even though he still had that cold and dark expression on his face, in her memory, no one had ever treated her so well and cared about her before. In the hotel suite, Mu Yaja put her down. Yunshursher immediately scampered to the bathroom like a fleeing rabbit. The man stared coldly at the door that slammed shut and turned to leave. Half a second later, a certain shy woman sullenly opened the door a crack. She leaned against the doorway and pleaded feebly, Mu Yaja, help me buy a pack of sanitary pads now. Mu Yaja said coldly, I'll get someone to buy it. Yunshursher was shocked. No. Mu Yaja, don't ask someone else to buy it, okay? How embarrassing. The man's cold face tensed up and darkened. What's the difference? She was speechless. Yes, there was no difference. It was just that when she thought of those chauffeurs around him and how they were all burly men, she felt awkward. But she couldn't bring herself to say it, so she pouted and threw a tantrum. I don't care. If you don't buy it, I won't use it. Woman, don't be willful. Yunshursher whined pitifully, Mu Yaja. The man's face turned cold. He ignored her, but he didn't say a word. He turned around resolutely. She was so angry that she frowned. This man was too heartless. He wouldn't abandon her like this, would he? 5 minutes later, when this proud son of a famous family in the capital, a man of great fame in the business world, stood in the column of women's products, when the man's elegant and slender hand picked up the small, cute, and delicate Sophie sanitary pads, the people in the supermarket looked at him in surprise. Colorful gazes sized him up, scrutinizing him. Mu Yaja tightened his grip on the bag as the blood and chi in his chest churned. His cold gaze swept over, and his icy gaze caused the temperature of the entire place to plummet. Below zero, what were his thoughts? In any case, it was worse than being shot. He didn't know much about these things, so he bought a bunch of them day and night. At the checkout, the cashier stared blankly at the pink and blue sanitary pads in front of her. The cute pink and blue contrasted sharply with the man's stiff face. Oh my God, how much did he need to buy so many? It was enough to use for a few years. However, when she caught a glimpse of the beautifully packaged cotton women's underwear, her eyes widened. Could he be a pervert? Looking at the well-dressed and handsome man in front of her, she couldn't imagine it. Muyaja stuck his hands in his pants and felt the strange gaze from the cashier. He glanced at her coldly. The cashier obediently lowered her head and didn't dare to take another look. She braced herself and wrapped them up properly. When she saw the man leave, her back was covered in cold sweat. Oh my God, what a terrifying aura. Chapter 385. Yunshishir was waiting anxiously in the bathroom when she heard a commotion outside, followed by a light knock on the bathroom door. However, it was not a man's deep voice that rang out. Miss Yun, I'm here to deliver something to you on the CEO's orders. The one who spoke was a gentle female voice. When Yunshishir opened the door, she was greeted by the room manager in her uniform. Her face instantly turned red when she saw the huge supermarket shopping bag in her hand. Did you buy these? No, these are all from CEO Mu. Miss Yun, CEO Mu treats you so well. Which man would be willing to buy these things himself? Yunshishir's heart warmed at her words. She took the bag from her and inspected it carefully. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. So many? Don't you know that these things have a shelf life? As she rummaged through the bag, she found a pair of exquisite cotton underwear. She blushed when she realized that her underwear was dirty. She did not expect him to be so considerate. Where is he? The woman smiled. Are you asking about CEO Mu? There's a board meeting coming up. I'm afraid it'll be late, so he asked you to rest first. Although it was a board meeting, it was actually a car race in the mountains to calm down. Oh, he's so busy. Yunshishir took a shower and changed before taking a taxi home. She lay on the soft king-sized bed and rolled around contentedly. She suddenly thought of something and sat in front of the vanity mirror. Looking at the pair of small and cute earrings, her lips curled up slightly. She touched the earrings contentedly and turned off the lights to sleep. That night, Yunshishir slept peacefully. The next day, Yunshishir rushed to the company early in the morning. She had taken a day off yesterday, so when she returned to the training class, she felt that the atmosphere was different. She did not know why, but all the trainees in the class were very polite to her. Jianghu, especially, wanted to avoid her whenever she saw her. This was good, too. At least, she could have some peace. In the evening, Yunshishir reached home. The moment she opened the door, the warm light in the living room enveloped her. I'm back. Yun Yecheng was setting the table when he heard the door open. He rubbed his hands and walked to the entrance. You're back. Is mommy back? Yun Tianyu poked his head out of the kitchen. Seeing that it was her, he immediately jumped into her embrace and gave her a big kiss. Smack. A kiss was printed on her cheek. Little Munchkin smiled sweetly. Mommy, welcome home. Yunshishir hugged him. Little Munchkin was wearing a cartoon apron and his face was covered in flour. He must have prepared dinner for her. The long-lost warmth filled her heart. Yunshishir pouted and said, one isn't enough. Give me another baby. Moi. Switching to the other cheek, he generously gave her another sweet kiss. The mother and son were in a mess at the entrance. How was the summer camp? Is it fun? Yunshishir asked as she rubbed his head. He pouted. It's not fun at all. It's boring. The summer camp organized by the kindergarten was mostly parent-child activities. It was undoubtedly very interesting for children of the same age, but for Yun Tianyu, it was childish. Then, he asked nervously, Mommy, you're home early today? Is work going well? It's going well. Chapter 386. Little Munchkin asked with an innocent smile on his face. However, in his heart, he was plotting something. If he found out who bullied his mommy, he would definitely not let them off easily. Xianxia did not know what the little lad was thinking as she smiled and replied, "No, I didn't." "Xianxia, quickly sit down. Yu has prepared dinner for you." Xianxia immediately took her bag, took her coat, and hung it on the hanger. In the afternoon, Yu took a small purse and said that he was going to the supermarket to buy some ingredients. He was surprised and worried about the little lad going out alone, so he followed him to the supermarket. Who knew that he would be taken aback when he followed him? Just as he stepped into the vegetable section of the supermarket, Yu rushed into the crowd with a basket of vegetables in hand. His figure agilely maneuvered among the haggling voices as if he was familiar with the process. He was very particular about buying, picking, and matching the meat and vegetables. He did not even need to do anything as he picked the freshest ingredients at the most affordable price. It was not that Xianxia was not surprised. When Xianxia was so young, she could not even differentiate between vegetables and spinach. Even when he was her age, he was not so good at it. The little lad, on the other hand, seemed to be very familiar with the process as he could distinguish all the dishes clearly. What surprised him even more was that the little lad was very meticulous in picking the vegetables. The vegetables he picked were fresh and green in color, without any damage or holes. When he bought the meat, he even knew how to carefully smell it to ensure that the meat was pure and had no stench. He even gently pressed it with his finger. Xianxia, who was standing at the side, could not help feeling curious. When he asked about it, he heard the little lad saying, "First, smell the meat and then press it to see if it's elastic and glossy. If it's slaughtered after death, then the meat will be dark red in color and there will be purplish-red blood stasis in the blood vessels. Eating it will make you sick." Xianxia was dumbfounded. The fish must have dense and complete scales, bright and clear eyes, plump and slightly protruding cheeks, and bright red cheeks. Otherwise, it wouldn't be fresh. Little Munchkin grabbed a fish and explained seriously. Xianxia was thoroughly convinced. Seeing his father's dumbfounded look, Tianyu thought to himself that he had never seen him haggling with those aunties at the market before. That level of haggling was simply a tyrant. Now that his living conditions were better, he was too lazy to bargain, but he was especially picky about the freshness of the ingredients. After buying the ingredients and returning home, he put on an apron and brought a small stool over. Washing and selecting the vegetables, Zhang Xian's movements were practiced. Slicing and dicing the meat into shreds, his knife skills weren't as superb as those of a five-star chef. However, with a single cut, the meat slices were even and thin, and the shreds were well-proportioned and beautiful. After stir-frying, the meat slices were extremely flavorful. Xianxia wanted to help at first, but the little lad chased him to the side. He then stared blankly at the bustling scene in the kitchen. In less than 2 hours, a sumptuous feast was prepared. Out of curiosity, Xianxia snuck a taste of the opium fish. The meat was tender and delicious, and the taste was neither salty nor bland. Although it was a home-cooked dish, its standard was not inferior to that of a five-star hotel. Xianxia was completely petrified and felt like crying. He was so touched that he wanted to cry. Chapter 387. Even now, Xianxia was still in shock. When Xianxia sat down at the table, he mumbled, "Xianxia, these dishes are all made by the child, yes. My Yu is the best." Xianxia rubbed the little lad's head lovingly. Tianyu slapped her hand away and tidied up his messy hair before reproaching helplessly, "It's mommy's fault for being so clumsy. Her cooking doesn't taste good." Xianxia looked embarrassed. Yu is so smart. Mommy is ashamed of her inferiority." Xianxia was even more amazed by his grandson's capability. He clicked his tongue in wonder. It's a good thing that he knows how to share your chores at such a young age. At first, I was worried that he wouldn't get into trouble because he's just a child. Now that I think about it, his culinary skills aren't learned in a day or two. After a pause, he asked quizzically, when did you start learning how to cook? When he was 6. Yunshishir thought for a while. Stupid mommy. He was 4. Alright, if noodles count. She remembered that when he was 4, Yu made her a bowl of Yangchun noodles, which tasted pretty good. Actually, Yu did not like to cook, especially the smell of oil and fumes. He only enjoyed the sense of accomplishment and happiness that cooking brought. Every time he saw his mommy eating the delicious food he made, that sense of accomplishment made him feel as if he were the most amazing person in the world. Being able to bring happiness to his mommy was the happiest thing in his life. Mommy, let me test you on a question. He winked mysteriously at her. Guess what day it is tomorrow? Yunshishir swallowed a mouthful of rice and pretended to be racking her brains. She asked meekly, oh. Is it Sunday? Stupid mommy, tomorrow is Saturday. Yun Tianyu looked defeated as he pouted helplessly. Oh. Then, I remembered wrongly. Guess again, guess again. Yun Tianyu put down his bowl and chopsticks and propped his chin on his hand. His twinkling eyes gazed at her with a gentle smile. Is it the parent-teacher conference? Yunshishir guessed again. No. It's an important day for mommy and me. Yu saw that she had not guessed correctly even after racking her brains. She looked upset and her little face scrunched up. She felt sad and wronged. Yunshishir couldn't figure it out. What day is that? Seeing her look of innocence and bewilderment, Yun Tianyu suddenly clutched his chest with a grief-stricken look, silently complaining about her carelessness. It's Yu's birthday. Yunshishir pretended to be enlightened. Oh, I remember now. Tomorrow is Yu's birthday. It's Children's Day. Yu was so angry that his face turned red. He crossed his arms and pouted so hard that one could hang a lamp. Humph. Stupid mommy, you don't have Yu in your heart anymore. You don't even know Yu's birthday. With that, the little guy covered his face and cried sorrowfully. Woo, mommy doesn't love Yu anymore. Yu is so sad, stop joking, baby. How can mommy forget Yu's most important day? Yunshishir's heart ached when she saw his aggrieved look. She hurriedly coaxed him. The little lad turned his head and snorted arrogantly. Yunshishir saw this and smiled helplessly. She secretly took out an exquisitely wrapped gift box from her bag and handed it to him. She wanted to give him a surprise. Chapter 388. Yu is mommy's little angel. How could mommy forget that tomorrow is Yu's birthday? I wish you a happy birthday and happy Children's Day in advance. Yu received the present from her with a confused look. It took him a while to realize that his mommy was teasing him. How could mommy forget his birthday? He lowered his head to look at the exquisite packaging and saw the words Happy Birthday, Baby written on the card. His small fingers brushed past the words written by Yunshishir herself. The ink on the card had completely dried, making it look beautiful. The little lad's eyes softened as he stared at it. His face, which had been full of grievances, suddenly brightened up. Hugging the present, the little lad's face was filled with contentment. This was the happiest moment of his life. Thank you, mommy. Yun Tianyu was in such a good mood that his pair of calves could not help but sway. Tomorrow is mommy's birthday, too. With that, Yu affectionately hugged Yunshishir's face and planted a deep kiss on it. Mommy has worked hard. Mommy gave Yu life. Yu will spend the rest of his life by mommy's side. I won't let mommy suffer any grievances or hardships. Every word that came out of little Munchkin's mouth was extremely solemn. It sounded like a sacred speech. Yunshishir smiled. Baby is so obedient. Then, mommy, do you have work tomorrow? I think so. Yunshishir thought for a while. She had to rush to the set early in the morning for a makeup test. Dong, hearing this, Yun Tianyu hung his head dejectedly. Yun Shishir could not bear to see his desolate look. Suddenly, she thought of something and said, "Mommy should be free in the afternoon, though." "Then, Mommy, let's go to Fairy Tale Valley." Yu was excited again. As if by magic, he took out 2 tickets to Fairy Tale Valley from his pocket. Fairy Tale Valley was the world's most famous and popular fairy tale-themed amusement park. It was co-founded by Lizhi Holdings and N.E. Group. It had opened 6 resorts all over the world and was popular all over the world. It was the fairy tale kingdom that children yearned for the most. All right. But where did these tickets come from? "It's a birthday present from the principal," he casually replied. Fairy Tale Valley. As the biggest shareholder of Lizhi Holdings, he also owns some shares in Fairy Tale Valley. "It's just 2 tickets, and he can get it easily." "Yes. Mommy will pick you up at noon tomorrow." "Yu, quickly open it and take a look." "What did Mommy give you?" Yun Yecheng was in such a good mood that he wanted to tease him. Yun Tianyu enjoyed the process of opening presents the most. In the past, when Yun Shishir gave him a toy on his birthday, he carefully kept it. Last year, his mother had given him a set of toy sets, and he had always been careful with them. Generally speaking, children of this age only had a sense of novelty towards toys. The new toys that their parents bought were just for the sake of novelty. When they bought them back, they would be unable to put them down for a few days and play very happily. However, it didn't take long for him to get bored of it and toss it aside. The more mischievous ones would be broken before he got bored of them. Yu was different, though. Chapter 389. He wondered what his mommy had given him this time. He unwrapped the gift box and opened it expectantly. However, he was surprised to see a smart GPS watch lying quietly inside the box. His eyebrows twitched a little. Lizhi Holdings' newly launched smart sports watch could be used for video calls, GPS global positioning, and had a 1-button alarm function. Could he say that he designed this watch? He wanted to cry but had no tears. Did it mean that his mommy's gift had helped his company generate revenue from this watch? "Do you like it?" Yun Shishir looked at him expectantly, anticipating his amazement. His eyebrows twitched a little, but when he raised his head, he put on an innocent smile. "I like it. Yu likes mommy's gift." Mu residence. After dinner, Mu Yaja walked to the study room and saw Xiao Yichen painstakingly working on an exercise book. He was trying his best to calculate with his fingers. His physique was amazing, but he was weak in science. Those math problems that were so simple to Yun Tianyu could not wait to calculate them one by one for Xiao Yichen. When it came to addition and subtraction, there was still hope. When it came to multiplication and division, the little guy just wanted to roll his eyes and lie down. He seemed to have some ideas, he was just a little bit away. Therefore, he did not notice the steady footsteps coming from outside the door. Click. It seemed that someone had pushed the door open. His footsteps were casual as he strolled in with the posture of a king. The man did not speak. He walked to the table and looked at the little lad, who was sprawled on the table. He was wearing fluffy white pajamas. At first glance, he looked like a cat with pure white fur. Still, this little guy was much cuter than a cat. The little guy lowered his head and seriously racked his brains as he looked down at him. His eyelashes, which were thick and long like black phoenix feathers, must have inherited his mother's genes. They covered his eyes and left a faint shadow on his eyelids. He reached out and flipped through the textbook she had placed at the side. Little Yichen was startled. He caught a glimpse of that hand from the corner of his eye. It had fair skin, slender fingers, and well-defined knuckles. He could not help but raise his head in astonishment, only to see the man with his head lowered and flipping through her high school textbook. His handsome face was calm, and his lips seemed to have a gentle curve. The study room was lit by a table lamp. In the half-light, Half of his handsome face was buried in the shadows. His expression could not be seen clearly, but there was a deadly handsomeness about him. There seemed to be no expression on his face. Xiao Yichen always felt that his daddy had the innate aura of a king. His every movement was extraordinary, as if he was born to be a king. People could not help but submit to him. He yearned to be a man like his daddy. The little guy hurriedly stood up, not knowing what to do. These exercises were given to him by Mu Yaja. He had given him an entire afternoon to solve 1,000 exercises. However, he had racked his brains day and night and had only solved 370. He was already dizzy. Mu Yaja had always been strict with his studies. Xiao Yichen felt guilty that he could not satisfy his daddy. Chapter 390. Mu Yaja raised his eyes and saw the man standing at the side with his head hung low. His lips curled into a smile as he walked to the table and sat down on the chair. Xiao Yichen had just let out a sigh of relief when he saw his father reach out and gently pull him into his embrace. He sat in his father's embrace and smelled his delicate fragrance. He couldn't help but hug his father's waist. "Daddy, I haven't finished the math problem, which one?" The man's magnetic voice sounded above his head. Xiao Yichen flipped open the notebook and pointed at the questions. He whispered, "These questions. I don't know how to solve them." Mu Yaja calmly picked up the pen and wrote down a few multiplication tables. Soon, he solved the problem. Xiao Yichen blinked in astonishment. He grabbed the notebook and looked at it again and again. Yes, that's how he solved it. He just couldn't remember the formula. No matter how hard he thought, he couldn't figure it out. Thus, he was trapped in the math problem. "Which one?" Xiao Yichen shook his head and said, "That's all." "You didn't memorize the multiplication table?" "I memorized it, I'm not familiar with it." Xiao Yichen revealed a bitter and vengeful expression. Mu Yaja gently smiled. He looked very good when he smiled. His long and narrow eyes curved slightly and his thin lips curved slightly. His smile was truly breathtaking. Even if you exhausted all the beautiful words in the world, it would still be indescribable. He was making calculations in his notebook while explaining to him in a soft voice. His clear voice was as pleasant as spring water. His voice was clearly feminine and mellow, but it sounded so soft and pleasant to the ears. The little fellow suddenly felt that if this man became a teacher, he would definitely be an outstanding teacher. He explained very seriously and didn't miss any details. Even though the little fellow was distracted, he still understood his thoughts. He raised his head and revealed a bright and beautiful smile with two cute dimples at the corner of his lips. "Daddy is so awesome, if only you could accompany me to do questions every day." Mu Yaja looked at little Munchkin's smiling face and suddenly became distracted. She recalled Yuntianyo's arrogant and unruly face. Genes were truly inconceivable. Of the two little fellows, one was proficient in literature and the other in martial arts. Yuntianyo's physique was barely satisfactory, but he was exceptionally intelligent. Although Xiao Yichen's intelligence was not as top-notch as Yuntianyo's, his physique was better than his younger self's. He had an extraordinary talent in firearms and combat. "Do you know what day it is tomorrow?" Mu Yaja lowered his head and whispered into the little fellow's ear. Xiao Yichen frowned and thought hard for a while. Then, he shook his head and said, "I don't know." Mu Yaja poked the little fellow's head and said speechlessly, "Don't you remember your own birthday?" Xiao Yichen pouted aggrievedly and helplessly said, "I really forgot." As if by magic, Mu Yaja took out an exquisitely wrapped gift box from his pocket and passed it to him. Little Yichen's eyes widened in surprise when his gaze landed on the present. He was a little taken aback by this unexpected surprise. Hugging the present, his little face was unusually bashful and excited. The little fellow's emotions were always restrained, which was very similar to Mu Yaja. Be it happiness or sadness, they rarely showed on his face and were buried deep in his heart. However, he was still a child. When the gift landed in front of him, a heartfelt joy arose spontaneously. Chapter 391. Especially when she opened the gift, every minute and every second was filled with joy and inexplicable anticipation. Mu Yaja had given him presents before. Every year on his birthday, he would give him anything that Xiao Yichen liked or wanted. To him, there was nothing that he could not get, only things that his child could not think of. Therefore, no matter what the present was, as long as he asked, it would immediately fly to his side. Therefore, no matter how precious the present was, he would get it if he wanted it. However, this would also cause the child to lose the mood to cherish the present. As long as he opened his mouth, there was nothing that he could not get. Therefore, he played with Mu Yaja's presents for a few days. When he was tired of them, he threw them aside and did not ask about them anymore. It was hard for a child to have feelings of wanting to cherish something that was easily obtained. The harder it was to obtain, the more one cherished it. After all, compared to women, men were not as meticulous. In the past, when it was Xiao Yichen's birthday, Mu Yaja would always ask him in advance what he liked and what he wanted as a present. Mu Yaja would send someone to buy whatever he liked and give it to him. There was no exquisite packaging or beautiful card. Therefore, the birthday present did not have the anticipation and surprise that a birthday present should have. Mu Wanru's attitude towards his birthday was also not very attentive. Most of the time, she would pay for whatever Xiao Yichen liked. It was a cold process. However, this was not strange. After all, he was not her biological son. Without blood ties, she did not pay much attention to the details. She seemed to dote on the child, but on the surface, it was only for the sake of Mu Yaja and Grandpa Mu. In her heart, her attitude towards the child was neither hot nor cold. She did not give birth to him, so how much could she dote on him? Children were naive by nature. Their anticipation for their birthday was nothing more than the surprise and yearning for the mysterious present. The moment when they opened the present was always thrilling, full of anticipation and fantasy. However, for Xiao Yichen, the action of opening the present seemed to be numb. This was because he knew what kind of present his daddy gave him. Because he knew, there was no surprise and no anticipation. However, when Mu Yaja magically presented a beautifully wrapped present to him, Xiao Yichen's childlike innocence was instantly awakened. "Daddy, is this my birthday present?" Xiao Yichen blinked his bright eyes and asked curiously. "Yes." "What present is it?" He was so curious. "Open it and take a look." However, little Yichen frowned and pouted, appearing to be vexed. "What's wrong?" Mu Yaja asked when he noticed his odd expression. "I can't bear to open it." Xiao Yichen muttered. "Can't bear to?" Mu Yaja did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Why can't bear with it?" "I don't know, I can't describe it." As Xiao Yichen spoke, his cheeks were pink and flushed with excitement. The feeling of anticipation was like a furry cat's paw that kept scratching at her heart. His heart thumped. It was the first time he tasted the feeling of nervousness and anticipation. Xiao Yichen untied the ribbon and carefully tore open the wrapping paper layer by layer. His extremely serious and focused expression made him look like a devout Christian. Chapter 392. Xiao Yichen's mouth was slightly agape. He was a little surprised, but more than that, he was pleasantly surprised and curious. "Daddy, what is this?" Mu Yaja explained it to him. "This is a smart watch. It has a call function, navigation, and GPS. Look, this is a one-button alarm." The man's voice was low, gentle, and magnetic. Xiao Yichen leaned comfortably in Mu Yaja's arms and immersed himself in his gentle explanation. The study room was filled with tenderness. Xiao Yichen quickly learned all the functions of the watch. The watch's design was extraordinary. In fact, it had more than just the functions mentioned above. There were also some hidden applications that were very useful for children of this age. However, If Mu Yaja knew that this watch was one of the many products designed by Yun Tianyu, what would he think? Fun. Hee hee. Xiao Yichen wore the watch on his wrist and waved it in front of Mu Yaja as if to show off. He proudly said, "This watch looks much better than those that Daddy wears." Mu Yaja chuckled. It was rare for the little guy to reveal such a pure and romantic smile. Seeing him happy, the corners of his lips could not help but curl up. He was in a good mood. "Baby, your birthday is coming soon." He caressed the little guy's head and gently planted a kiss on his forehead. Xiao Yichen blushed. He hugged Mu Yaja's shoulders and kissed him on the cheek. "Thank you, Daddy. How do you want to celebrate your birthday tomorrow?" Xiao Yichen pondered for a moment before saying softly, "I want to go to the amusement park." Amusement park? Fairy Tale Valley Amusement Park. I heard that it's fun. Are you free? Mu Yaja was silent for a moment. He filtered through the schedule for tomorrow in his mind and said helplessly, "Daddy's schedule is full tomorrow." Xiao Yichen lowered his head, feeling a little lonely. "Let Mommy go with you tomorrow, okay?" "No." Xiao Yichen looked conflicted. "I just want Daddy to play with me, good boy, Daddy doesn't have time." "Next time, Mu Yaja patiently coaxed him, his tone revealing some guilt and self-blame. There was a very important planning meeting tomorrow that couldn't be postponed. Xiao Yichen looked at him pitifully. In the end, he nodded reluctantly and gave in. He was not a willful child. Even though he had nodded and compromised, it didn't mean that he wasn't disappointed. It wasn't the first or second time she had experienced such a lonely birthday. He really wanted to go to the amusement park with his daddy. Playing the pirate ship and the merry-go-round, although these rides were not very attractive in his eyes, it would be very interesting if his daddy accompanied him, right? It would definitely be fun. He could understand that his daddy was busy. Such a big company needed to be managed, and he might not have the time to accompany him all the time. He was not greedy, though. He only hoped that his daddy would take some time out to accompany him on his birthday. This thought had become an extravagant hope. Xiao Yichen was a little unhappy. However, even if he was unhappy, he could not show it on his face. As a father, he was not as meticulous and gentle as a mother. From a certain perspective, perhaps Yun Tianyu was happier than Xiao Yichen. Chapter 393. Be it the gifts or the schedule, they were all meticulously prepared for the sake of leaving a beautiful memory for the child. Thus, with more or less regret, Xiao Yichen did not sleep well that night. His heart ached as he hid under the blanket. He wanted his daddy to accompany him to the amusement park. This was the real surprise he was looking forward to. The next day, Yun Shishir woke up very early. Today was the day of the trial photo shoot, so she had to make preparations in advance to improve her skin to its best condition, moisturize, and maintain her skin in one go. Her skin was relatively tender, so it was easy for her to apply makeup. No matter what kind of makeup she used, it would look clear and natural. Hence, when she usually appeared barefaced, people would often mistake her for wearing a thick layer of foundation. Even so, she still made sufficient preparations in advance. The car that Qin Zhou had arranged for her was already waiting at the entrance. She got in the car. The trial photo shoot was arranged to be held at the set studio. The trial photo shoots and promotional photos would be done here. When she arrived at the set, the timing was just right. The staff arrived one after another. Qin Zhou did not come today, but the assistant that he had arranged for her had already arrived. The assistant that Qin Zhou had arranged for her was called Xiaomu. She used to be his right-hand woman, but because she was reliable, she was assigned to be Yun Shishir's assistant. "Shishir, hello. From now on, I'll be your assistant. My surname is Mu, and my name is Mu Shi. You can just call me Xiaomu." Xiaomu warmly welcomed her and introduced herself. Yun Shishir smiled and sized her up. Xiao Mu looked very young, about 25 or 26 years old. She had a sweet appearance, and from her style of dress and style of conversation, she should be a very efficient woman. Although she was only 25 or 26 years old, she had entered the industry at a very early age. Qin Zhou was grooming her as his successor, and she might develop into a manager in the future. Yun Shishir smiled and said, "Hello, Xiao Mu. Please take care of me in the future." She winked mischievously and held her hand with a sweet smile. "Yes, thank you. I'll be in your care in the future. Aren't you being too distant with me?" Mu Shi pouted mischievously and continued, "I've heard of your name before. Yun Shishir, not only does your name sound good, but you're also very beautiful. You're even prettier than in the photos." Xiao Mu sincerely praised, her eyes filled with admiration and intimacy. "You're flattering me." Yun Shishir was a little embarrassed by her compliments and exclamations, so she tried to be humble. The two chatted for a while more before Mu Shi suddenly raised her wrist to look at the time and hurriedly said, "It's getting late, let me bring you to the dressing room. Time is tight, we have to prepare in advance." She of course for the time being, Xiao, of course. Along the way, Mu Shi led the way, occasionally turning back to add, "According to the order of the lead roles, we should be the second to audition. Since Gu Xingzi isn't here yet, you should be the first one." Of you, of course of you." As she spoke, she suddenly stopped in her tracks. Where is the makeup room?" Yun Shishir asked, "You don't know where the makeup room is?" Chapter 394. With that, she hurriedly chased after a few production assistants nearby. Patting one of them on the shoulder, she inquired about the location of the main lead's dressing room. A few stage managers were currently in a terrible fix. When they turned around and saw that it was a newbie assistant, they sized her up. Seeing that she looked unfamiliar, they guessed that she must be the assistant of a newbie actor and not someone close to a big shot. Hence, they did not bother with her and sent her away in annoyance with an extremely cold attitude. "Can't you find one yourself? I'm busy right now. Stay away." Mu Shi was caught off guard and was given the cold shoulder. She had always been by Qin Zhou's side as an assistant. Even when a big director saw her, he would give her a warm smile. Hence, being looked down upon by a few production assistants, she was so angry that her face turned ashen. When she returned, she did not forget to scold them indignantly. "A bunch of snobs." As she spoke, she suddenly saw Yan Bingqing gracefully walking over. Yan Bingqing was now the hottest topic in the entertainment industry. Her every move was eye-catching. Fashion queen, topic queen, advertisement queen, scandal queen. She was now Huanyu's A-lister. Although she did not have any representative works to show, her acting standards were often criticized by the media. Most of the movies she starred in had mediocre reviews and terrible reviews. She was known as the poison of the box office. Still, her looks were definitely heavenly and demonic. In the face of a peerless beauty, other conditions did not seem so important. Upon seeing the actress, the few stage supervisors changed their cold and aloof attitude toward Mu Shi and immediately bowed to greet her. They took on an incomparably flattering posture and served her well. This time, Mu Shi was even more furious. What kind of people are they? Are they obviously flattering someone and stepping on me? However, there was only so much she could complain about. After being by Qin Zhou's side for so many years, she had always believed in being careful with her words and actions. Moreover, Yan Bingqing's background was not simple, so it was not good to offend her. Although she was furious, she repeatedly reminded herself to suppress her anger and not cause any trouble for Yun Shishir. Yun Shishir also saw the change in attitude of the stage supervisors, but she did not say anything. This was only human nature. "Little Mu, don't be angry. It's not a big deal. Shishir, I feel indignant on your behalf." Mu Shi snorted, clearly feeling indignant on her behalf. The two of them fumbled around the huge set for a while and soon found their dressing room. "The dressing room is over here." As she spoke, she pushed the door open and walked in. Coincidentally, Yan Bingqing was also in the dressing room. Unspoken was a little stunned. She remembered that her dressing room was the same as Gu Xing's. Why is Yan Bingqing here too? She was a little puzzled. She pulled a production assistant to the side and asked softly, "Handsome, let me ask you, isn't this the dressing room of the main lead?" Lin Fengtian had specially instructed to arrange a separate dressing room for the two main leads. In this movie, Yan Bingqing was just a supporting role and a cameo. Why did she occupy the main lead's dressing room? Chapter 395. This dressing room is for the two main leads. However, Yan Bingqing said that she wants to use this one. Seeing that the superstar won't be here any time soon, I can't really reject her. She was displeased. This is the main lead's dressing room. Can't this missy use another one? Behind her, Yan Bingqing's arrogant and provocative voice was heard. Why? Can't I use this one? She turned to look at her with an ugly expression. She then put on a professional smile. Sis Bingqing, it's not that you can't. It's like this. Our Shir is the first to do the test shoot, so she has to do her makeup quickly. Alright, I got it. Although she's a newbie, I won't make things difficult for her. Let her share a dressing room with me. Yan Bingqing looked coldly at the mirror and did not look at her at all. She casually said this, yet her tone sounded as if she was doing her a favor. It was as if giving up half of the dressing room to Unspoken was her doing a favor beyond the law. It was as if she had the right to decide who this dressing room belonged to. She was so angry that her smiling face stiffened. This dressing room was clearly arranged for Unspoken. Now that she had snatched it away, she was still acting as if she was doing her a favor. How could she be so shameless? She was clearly trying to ostracize her. To put it nicely, Yan Bingqing was a guest star this time. In fact, she was already one of the female leads. One of the investors valued her and wanted to groom her. Alas, Lin Fengtian did not fancy her. She had no acting skills. Although her facial features were naturally beautiful, she had a mature charm and could not portray the innocence of a young girl at all. To sum it up, she looked old. Hence, she was heartlessly kicked out by Lin Fengtian. This Yan Bingqing must have seen that Lin Fengtian had chosen a newcomer. She must have held a grudge and was secretly jealous. However, despite her thoughts, she did not dare to talk back to her. She only said in a neutral tone, "Where's the stylist? Hurry up and do your makeup." As soon as he finished speaking, a young woman wearing glasses hurriedly pushed open the door and walked in with a heavy bag in her hand. She was probably the stylist of the crew. She walked in, looked around, and said with a smile, "Sorry, there was a traffic jam on the road, so I came a little late." "I'm really sorry. I'm the stylist of the crew. My surname is Ding and my name is Ding Ning." After a pause, she asked, "Who's the lead?" She smiled and held Unspoken's hand. "Hello, Ms. Ding. This is the female lead, Unspoken." Ding Ning immediately greeted politely, "Hello, Unspoken." Just as the atmosphere was harmonious, ahem. Yan Bingqing sat in front of the largest dressing table. Seeing that Ding Ning did not notice her immediately, she cleared her throat with a displeased expression. Ding Ning heard the noise and looked in the direction of the sound. When he saw that it was Yan Bingqing, a flash of embarrassment and annoyance passed in his eyes. He immediately smiled and said, "Sister Bingqing. Emichum. Come and do my makeup for me." "Alrighty." Ding Ning immediately carried her bag to Yan Bingqing's seat and opened it. She was stunned. Unspoken's eyes darkened slightly, but she remained calm and collected. No trace of anger could be seen on her face. She was a little unable to keep her cool. This dressing room was snatched, and now the stylist was snatched as well. This was too much. Xianxia was going to be the first. This time, Mushi was certain that Yan Bingqing was deliberately making things difficult for her. Lin Fengtian was known for his bad temper. Chapter 396. There was only one stylist in a dressing room. Yan Bingqing was clearly trying to embarrass Xianxia. Mushi got Xianxia to go to her seat first and then walked toward Yan Bingqing. Sister Bingqing, why don't we let Xiao Ding do Xiaxia's makeup first? Yan Bingqing arrogantly rolled her eyes. Why? Because Xianxia is the first to go. If she's not ready by then, Director Lin will lose his temper again. Yan Bingqing sneered and said faintly, her makeup is so simple, can't she do it herself? With that, she turned to give Ding Ning a look. Don't you think so, Xiao Ding? Ding Ning was a little embarrassed for a moment. When she saw Yan Bingqing looking at her from the corner of her eye, she trembled and echoed, yes, the main lead's makeup is just a simple nude outfit. There's no need for eyeshadow. 2 layers of low gloss and some highlights will do. Sister Bingqing's makeup is more difficult to do, so I'll do her first. She was just an ordinary stylist. How would she dare to offend someone like Yan Bingqing? Mushi was furious. She was about to speak when someone held her shoulder. She turned around in surprise, only to see Xianxia pulling her behind her with a smile. With a decent and elegant smile, she said to Yan Bingqing, Sister Bingqing, you're my senior. According to the rules, you should go first and I should respect you first. These words were really pleasant to hear. Yan Bingqing's brows relaxed a little. She even thought that this newbie was quite sensible. However, in the next second, she heard Xianxia say lightly, although I'm a newbie, I'm the female lead in this movie. I'm the first in line for today's test shoot, so Miss Ding should do my makeup first. Yan Bingqing's smile froze. What did you say? Ding Ning, who was behind him, was also stunned. Even Mushi was so shocked that they did not dare to breathe loudly. Sister Bingqing should have heard what I said very clearly. I'm the main character, and you're a supporting character. It's my turn to go first today. Xiaxia's tone was light, and her voice was soft. However, she enunciated every word clearly, neither servile nor overbearing. When Yan Bingqing heard this, her chest seemed to explode. She couldn't even breathe properly. She stood up angrily and walked in front of her. You're saying that I'm a supporting character and you're the main character? So, the county did your makeup? Is there a problem? Xianxia said helplessly, indeed, I'm the main character and you're the supporting character. I didn't say anything wrong. Besides, first of all, Ms. Ding is my stylist. Second of all, this is my dressing room. I've already given you half of it. I'm already showing you respect and giving you face. Still, if you want to snatch the stylist away. She pursed her lips and pretended to be annoyed. Suddenly, she smiled and asked, why don't we invite Director Lin over to be the judge and see if Sister Bingqing should be the first to go up? Are you using Director Lin to pressure me? Yan Bingqing was flustered and exasperated. However, she still had to maintain her composure on the surface as she gritted her teeth and stared at her. Xianxia, however, was not afraid of her murderous glare and said lightly, Sister Bingqing, your words are interesting. Clearly, you're using your status to ostracize me, right? Yes, I'm a newbie and have just debuted, but I respect you. On the other hand, don't you feel that you're bullying a newbie? His words were spoken in a casual manner. However, every word was a gem. Chapter 397. Yan Bingqing's lips twitched. After scrutinizing her for a while, she sneered. Good. Interesting. Xianxia, let's wait and see. With that, she haughtily snorted, picked up her expensive Chanel handbag, and mercilessly bumped into Xiaxia's shoulder as she left. For a moment, the atmosphere in the dressing room froze. Ding Ning and Mu Shi, especially, looked at each other with pale faces. Yunshishir calmly sat down in front of the dressing mirror and calmly asked, "Ms. Ding, although my makeup is simple, you are a professional, after all. My technique is definitely not as good as yours. Still, can you please show some professionalism? Come and do my makeup for me." Mu Shi was dumbfounded. She had previously heard from Qin Zhou that Yunshishir's character was somewhat aloof from worldly affairs and that she should take good care of her. How was she aloof from worldly affairs? Still, she liked it. She was a little worried that she would offend Yan Bingqing and bear a grudge against her from now on. However, this was how the entertainment industry was. Open and covert fights and scheming against each other would happen sooner or later. Yunshishir's role as Yin Xiaochuan was mostly set during her school days, so her makeup was all about purity and purity. Ding Ning applied a crystal-clear nude makeup on her and applied some pink blush on her cheeks, and the job was done. It was not a huge project, but it still took an hour. Nude makeup sounded simple, but it was the most important thing. A thick layer or a thin layer would not do. The scale was the most difficult to grasp. Still, this was considered fast. Ding Ning was envious. Her foundation is too good and she's too beautiful. She'll definitely be famous if she can appear in Director Lin's film. Mu Shi glanced at her and was instantly stunned. She quickly led her to the studio. Everything was in order. Lin Fengtian was an impatient person. He looked at the time and asked impatiently, "Where is she? Is her makeup done?" "Coming, coming." Mu Shi hurried over. "Director Lin, look, the timing is just right. Shishir's makeup is done. When do we start? Where is she?" "Let me take a look at him first," Lin Fengtian said. As soon as she finished speaking, Yunshishir slowly walked into the studio. At that moment, the entire studio lit up. She was dressed in a simple snow-white dress, slender and elegant. Her ink-colored hair was long enough to reach her waist, like high-quality satin, shiny and beautiful. Raising his head, he saw a face so beautiful that it was suffocating. She had fair skin, charming facial features, and a faint blush on her cheeks. Her eyebrows were as elegant as the clouds, her eyes were as clear as the autumn waters, and her thin cherry-red lips. She lowered her eyes, revealing a row of long and curly eyelashes that were as thick and long as a comb. They were like the finest black feathers, but also like the fluttering wings of a butterfly. She was excessively charming. Her pink lips were not adorned with any embellishments, but they were like fresh flower petals, tender and lovely. Lin Fengtian did not react for a long time. His gaze was fixed on her without blinking. For a moment, the huge studio was silent. Mu Shi's heart was in a mess. She knew that Lin Fengtian was very picky and strict when it came to filming. She was afraid that the makeup would not pass. She looked at him and saw that he could not hide the amazement in his eyes. Only then did her heart calm down. To be precise, he could not help but stare at her in a daze. He felt his whole body heating up, as if he were drunk. He was like a teenage boy who saw a girl he liked and could not take his eyes off her no matter what. Chapter 398. Humans had a persistent pursuit of beauty. Yunshishir, on the other hand, was just standing there. Before she could act, Lin Fengtian had already gotten into character. A character who seemed to have walked out of a book. Yin Xiaochuan, who had walked out of the memories of her lost youth. She was so beautiful that she could not be tarnished by anything in the world. "Director Lin?" Mu Shi cautiously called out from the side. Lin Fengtian suddenly returned to his senses and could not help but praise, "Not bad. You have the feeling of Yin Xiaochuan." Yunshishir's lips curled into a slight smile when she heard this. She was in a good mood. The process of the test shoot went very smoothly. Yin Xiaochuan, who was played by Yunshishir, and Yin Dongyu, who was played by Gu Xingzi, were biological siblings. This novel was about how the two were childhood sweethearts who relied on each other as they grew up. As they grew up, taboo feelings gradually developed between them. Xiaochuan's character was simple and persistent. She was like a moth to a flame when it came to love. From the beginning to the end, she kept following Dongyu's back. Xiaochuan's infatuation was ultimately restrained by the world. Although Dongyu's heart throbbed with love for her, he was forced to push her away time and time again due to ethics. Later, Xiaochuan's mother unintentionally flipped through Xiaochuan's diary. The desperate and sorrowful words of struggling in the abyss of misery were revealed. Only then did she realize that the siblings had developed feelings that they should not have. In a fit of anger, Xiaochuan's mother sent her abroad to study. This was undoubtedly an exile. A few years later, Xiaochuan received a long-distance call from her mother. Dongyu had a fiancé and was about to get engaged. Xiaochuan returned to her hometown with a sense of loss. However, in an accident, she was diagnosed with blood cancer. Dongyu rushed to the hospital for a bone marrow examination, only to find out that his bone marrow and blood type did not match. The siblings were not related by blood. It turned out that when Xiaochuan was born, the two children were swapped at birth, resulting in a torturous relationship. Lin Fengtian boasted of his ruthless foresight. Now, he was even more confident of his judgment. Yunshishi and Xiaochuan's temperament was very compatible. With a slight smile, her pure and flawless aura instantly infected the entire set. Therefore, during the filming, even Lin Fengtian, who was known for his strictness, was full of praise and praise. This newbie is too suitable for the role of Xiaochuan. It's as if he just walked out of a book. The styling director clicked her tongue in wonder. At the side, not far away, Yan Bingqing's eyebrows furrowed. She looked displeased. It was unknown whether it was because of jealousy or unwillingness, but there seemed to be a cluster of flames burning in her chest. She hadn't even started putting on her makeup yet. When she heard that it had already started, she especially rushed over to take a look. Lin Fengtian was famous for being harsh. There was not a single actor on his set who did not get scolded. Even if it was a veteran actor, he would not give them any face. She had once appeared in one of Lin Fengtian's movies and was scolded in front of the entire set. She saw how proud Yunshishi was just now. She wanted to see how Lin Fengtian would scold this newbie. In the end, to everyone's surprise, Lin Fengtian was very satisfied with this newbie. Yan Bingqing's face was contorted with jealousy. Yunshishi was an eyesore to her. She had treated her with such an attitude just now. Hence, Yan Bingqing had formed a grudge with her. Humph, Yunshishi, there will be plenty of time in the future. In the future, I want to see how capable you are. How dare you offend me? Chapter 399. The weather was clear and there were no clouds in the sky. Today was a good day to go out. Mu Yaja ended the meeting early and returned to the Mu residence. The servants were surprised to see him back. They had heard that he had an important meeting today and that he should be home late. Why was he home so early? In fact, his schedule was full today. However, last night, when he found out that his precious son wanted him to accompany him to the amusement park, he made a decision in his heart even though he did not agree. He planned to celebrate his son's birthday with him properly. Therefore, he arranged a video conference overnight and arranged everything in advance. He arrived at the company early in the morning and ended the meeting early. He managed to squeeze out most of the day. When he rushed home, it was still early. The amusement park opened at 9 o'clock. Mu Yaja thought that today was Children's Day and there would be a lot of people going to the amusement park. He carefully booked 2 VIP tickets. Usually, the amusement park would have VIP tickets. These tickets were usually expensive. Therefore, there were many attractions that could be enjoyed through the VIP channel and there was no need to queue for too long. He wanted to let the little guy enjoy himself as much as possible in the limited time he had. Wuxia glanced around the living room and asked, "Where's the little young master?" "He's reading comics in his room. He didn't go to the amusement park?" It was as expected. Without his company, the little guy probably had no interest in going anywhere. Yes. The young mistress originally wanted to take him to play. But, the little young master said that he only wanted you to accompany him, so the young mistress accompanied the master to the Yongning temple to pray and eat vegetarian food. The servant told him the truth. Yes. Help me get ready. I'll go out later. Yes, young master. The servant quickly went to prepare. When he went up to the second floor, the door to the study was ajar. He carefully pushed it open. His movements were light and silent. Therefore, Xiao Yichen, who was building Lego blocks in the study, did not realize that someone had entered the study. He was still immersed in his own world. He sat on the carpet with Lego blocks scattered in front of him. Only half of the castle was left. It must have collapsed halfway and the Lego blocks were scattered everywhere. Little Yichen held the building blocks in his hand, but he just sat there motionlessly with his back facing her. He did not care about the scattered building blocks on the floor and just sat there in a daze. He did not speak or move at all. His back seemed to be in a daze as if his soul had left his body. Wuxia stood rooted to the spot and did not move forward. Looking at the little lad's dejected back, he guessed that he was probably feeling sad right now. Children are usually emotional. It's Children's Day, and it's their birthday, but they don't have their parents by their side. Wuxia felt a stabbing pain in his heart. If he did not see this scene in front of him, at least in front of him, he would have known that Xiao Yixiken's behavior. What he did not know was that, when he was not around, little Yichen was cold and aloof. He was even expressionless and taciturn when dealing with others. Just like when he was young. He closed himself off in his own world and did not get close to anyone. Wuxia slowly walked over. His heart ached. The time he spent with this child was indeed too little. Little Yichen's brows furrowed slightly when he heard footsteps behind him. Chapter 400. At that moment, he was in a bad mood, so it was inevitable that he mistook the person behind him for a servant. His tone was unfriendly. "Don't you knock before entering?" The footsteps didn't stop. How could this servant be so rude? He stood up angrily and turned around. However, when he saw the man who seemed to have descended from the sky, he opened his mouth in disbelief and was speechless for a long time. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes, Wuxia stuffed his hands into his pockets. Seeing the shock and disbelief written all over the boy's little face, he could not help laughing. "The door isn't closed, so I came in. Am I disturbing you?" "No." Xiao Yichen rubbed his eyes in a daze. He thought he was dreaming. Didn't he say that he had an important agenda today? Why was he back so early? "Daddy, why are you here?" "To celebrate my baby's birthday." Wuxia squatted down in front of him with a gentle expression. His handsome eyes were fixed on the little munchkin, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly. "Why? Didn't you say that you wanted Daddy to accompany you to the amusement park? Do you still want to go?" Seeing that he didn't speak, Wuxia reached out and pinched his tender cheeks. "Why aren't you saying anything?" "Yes." Xiao Yichen suddenly cheered. "Daddy is awesome. Did Daddy specially rush back to accompany me?" Wuxia pulled him into his arms. "Then let's change before we go, okay?" "Okay." Xiao Yichen was so excited that his cheeks were flushed red. This was the biggest surprise that Wuxia had given him. The weather in June was like a child's day. It was unpredictable. Yesterday was a cloudy day, but today, the sun was shining brightly. Wuxia had specially changed him into a casual outfit, a white top, aqua blue casual pants, a pair of air-cushioned shoes, a beret, and a pair of sunglasses. He looked like a fashionable young man. Xiao Yichen's handsome features and fair skin made him look more handsome than many children's fashion models. Mu Yaja followed suit and matched him in a father-son outfit. Similarly, he wore a white casual shirt, aqua blue cropped pants, and a pair of casual sneakers. He had shed his former business elite demeanor. Now that he was wearing casual makeup, he seemed to have lost a few years of his age. His face was originally young and tender. Even though he was almost 29 years old, in this outfit, he looked like a college student who had just graduated. He was youthful and handsome. When the father and son stood together, they didn't look like father and son, but brothers. Little Yichen eagerly prepared a small school bag. This was his first time going on a trip with his daddy, and it was also his first time going to an amusement park. Thus, in his excitement, he brought over many desserts and snacks. Unfortunately, his school bag was not big enough to fit so many desserts and snacks. Looking at the bulging bag, Xiao Yichen hugged his arms and felt a little distressed. Mu Yaja helplessly took out all the snacks. Xiao Yichen's heart ached when he saw this. He bit his lip as if his heart was bleeding. He loved desserts, so afternoon tea was a must for him. Mu Yaja thought to himself, there are many dessert stalls in the amusement park. It's the same if I buy desserts when I go in. However, it would be inconvenient to go in with a bag full of desserts. Chapter 401. Looking at Xiao Yichen's pitiful face, he did not explain further. When they entered the amusement park, the little guy would be so excited that he might even forget about the dessert. Even if he still missed it, he could just bring him to the dessert station. Even if he did not say anything, this was still a surprise. Thus, he put his wallet, a DV, and a phone charger into his bag. Everything was ready. Just like that, the father and son set off. When they arrived at the amusement park, it was already 11 o'clock. However, the number of people lining up at the entrance did not decrease. On the contrary, because it was Children's Day, there were still 2 long lines at the entrance. Fairy Tale Valley was the most famous amusement park in Beijing. It was jointly founded by Leji Holdings and N.E. Corporation. In the past 2 years, it had gathered a lot of popularity. After the third phase of the project was developed, it attracted many parents to bring their children from afar. It even attracted many foreign children. Thus, Mu Yaja carried Xiao Yichen in one arm and carried his small bag in the other. Under the envious gazes of the crowd, he walked straight through the VIP passage. Oh my God! Look at that man! He's so handsome. Could he be a celebrity? No way. I've never seen such a handsome and stylish man in the entertainment industry. He's even carrying a child. He's a father at such a young age? Oh my God, what a young stay-at-home dad. How is that possible? This handsome guy looks like he's in his early 20s. How can he be a father? It's obvious that the child is his younger brother. If he's really a father, then I'm so envious of this child's mother. The father is handsome and the child is cute. She's a winner in life. Why doesn't he need to line up? Does he have special privileges? You don't know, right? He must have bought a VIP ticket. With a VIP ticket, there was no need to line up. However, the VIP ticket was very expensive, so most people would not choose to buy it. After all, a normal ticket was only 300 yuan and a child ticket was half price. However, a VIP ticket, regardless of whether it was an adult or a child, was 3,000 yuan. Although it was expensive, the advantage of a VIP ticket was that not only did they not need to line up to get in, but all the paid activities in the park were also free. To put it simply, with 3,000 yuan, all the food, drinks, and entertainment in the amusement park would be free. Moreover, there would be a special VIP passage for the amusement park, so there would be no need to line up. For ordinary families, it might not be worth it. She brought her child to play a few games, but she couldn't play that many games. But for Mu Yaja, it was very worthwhile. The most important thing was that there was no need to wait in line. As soon as they entered the amusement park, Xiao Yichen was extremely excited. At the entrance to Fairy Tale Valley, there were 3 cute mascots, a fountain, a castle, and a parade. Everything was designed to look like a fairy tale world. Stepping in was like stepping into a fantasy world. Xiao Yichen said anxiously, "Daddy, Daddy, I want to come down." "Okay." Mu Yaja put him down, and the little guy ran excitedly towards the parade. "Wow! Daddy, take a look at this. It's Snow White." Xiao Yichen pointed at the holy and beautiful princess on the parade in surprise. Mu Yaja saw that he was so happy, and the corners of his lips curled up. Chapter 402. He didn't like to play in amusement parks. After all, he was an adult and had experience. No matter how dreamy the amusement park was, he would find it dull and boring. Seeing that little Munchkin was happy, he naturally felt happy too. Mu Yaja brought him to play a few rides. There were many activities in Fairy Tale Valley. Generally speaking, in other children's parks, most of the activities were for children to play. After all, the activities that children could play were limited. However, Fairy Tale Valley was different. Some of the activities that children were prohibited from playing in other children's parks were allowed to play in Fairy Tale Valley even as young as 6 years old. However, the high-altitude rides weren't as high, the express rides weren't as fast, and the safety measures were more carefully designed. At first, Mu Yaja was worried that the little guy wouldn't be able to adapt to the more exciting rides. Thus, he brought him to try a few of the simpler rides, such as an indoor roller coaster, a 4D action movie, and so on. Throughout the ride, the little guy was overjoyed. His little face was flushed with excitement. At this moment, he could see some of the characteristics that a 6-year-old should have. Carefree, naive, and unaffected. It turned out that the child's cold personality wasn't innate. It was because he lacked companionship. "Daddy, I want to play the Tong Tian Tower." Xiao Yichen pointed at the 30-meter-tall tower not far away and suggested excitedly. Just as he said that, a heart-wrenching scream came from the tower. It was very exciting. "It's so tall. Aren't you afraid?" Mu Yaja frowned. Xiao Yichen looked fearless. He straightened his little body and said, "I'm not afraid. Daddy is here. Daddy will protect me. Okay, let's go." After saying that, he held little Munchkin's hand and walked towards the Tong Tian Tower. However, a surprised voice came from behind. "Brother Mu." Mu Yaja turned around and saw a young woman holding a hydrogen balloon in her left hand and a 5-year-old girl in her right hand. She was walking towards him in surprise. The woman was pretty and slim. She looked to be in her early 20s. She had exquisite makeup on and was dressed very fashionably. If a discerning person's eyes were sharp enough, they would definitely be able to tell that the bag she was carrying on her shoulder was not cheap. The woman walked up to Mu Yaja with a gentle smile on her face. "Brother Mu, what a coincidence. Why are you here?" Mu Yaja was surprised to see her. "Enya?" Xiao Yichen was feeling happy, but when he turned around and saw who it was, the happiness on his face quickly disappeared. How could it be them? The woman's name was Song Enya, and the little girl she was holding was her younger sister, Song Enshi. Mu Yaja had special feelings for Song Enya and doted on her in many ways. It was not because of anything else but because Song Enya's mother was Jiang Qimeng. Jiang Qimeng was Jiang Yishan's younger sister, Song Zhengguo's wife, and the madam of the Song family. The Song family was one of the most prestigious families in the capital. They had been a scholarly family for over 100 years. When it came to Song Enya's grandfather's generation, he started a revolution. Old Song fought alongside the martyrs when he was young and was one of the 10 founding fathers of the country. One of the founding fathers. His position was very important. He had 2 sons. His eldest son, Song Jianghu, was the chief of the capital's military and held a high position. His youngest son, Song Zhenghua, was the mayor of the capital and was also a big shot. Chapter 403. The Song family had many talents, especially Old Master Song, who was revered by many. Jiang Qimeng and Song Zhenghua had a son and 2 daughters. The eldest son, Song Yunshi, was also a young and talented man. Although he was still young, he was already a lieutenant in the capital's military district. Therefore, Song Enya and Song Enshi were Mu Yaja's cousins. The reason why he took good care of his cousin was that Song Enya's facial features resembled Jiang Yishan's. They were very similar, especially in terms of their charm. There were a few times when he vaguely saw his mother in her younger days. After his mother passed away, little Enya stayed by his side day and night. Out of his longing for his mother, Song Enya was more like a spiritual sustenance to him. Song Enya smiled faintly as if she did not see Xiao Yichen standing at the side with a cold expression. She lowered her head and said to Song Enshi, "Why aren't you greeting Uncle Mu?" "Uncle Mu." Song Enshi called out sweetly. Her childish voice was full of delicateness. She did not care that Mu Yaja was holding Xiao Yichen's hand at the moment. She shook off Song Enya's hand and bounced in front of Mu Yaja, spreading her arms wide open and acting coquettishly. Uncle Mu, and she wants a hug. And she wants a hug." Xiao Yichen was obviously unhappy when he heard this. He secretly hated the Song sisters. Of all times, they appeared out of nowhere. Song Enshi, especially, wanted to snatch his daddy's embrace. Unforgivable. Just as he was cursing in his heart, Mu Yaja suddenly let go of his hand. Xiao Yichen nervously reached out to grab the man's hand, only to see him bend over slightly and lift Song Enshi up. Song Enshi nestled in Mu Yaja's embrace. The blissful expression on her face was as sweet as honey. She let out a bell-like laughter and was overjoyed. "And she loves Uncle Mu the most." As she spoke, in Mu Yaja's blind spot, she made a provocative face at Xiao Yichen, who looked annoyed. Xiao Yichen's face twisted even more. What was this? This was clearly a show of strength. What, are you very proud of yourself? Was it that great? Was he so proud of seizing his daddy's favor? Song Enshi was the person Xiao Yichen hated the most. Not because of anything else, but because this little girl was very annoying. When she was 4 years old, Song Enya brought Song Enshi to the muse as a guest. Like many naughty children, Song Enshi caused trouble everywhere, perhaps due to her young and insensible age. How did the Song family educate their children? They must have spoiled them too much. Not only did they break Xiao Yichen's toys, they even broke an antique vase in the Mu residence. In the end, they even blamed it on Xiao Yichen. Xiao Yichen felt so wrong that he had no one to complain to. In the end, what else could he do? Even though the muse knew that Song Enshi was talking, they could not expose her openly. After all, the Songs were a scholarly family in the capital, and Old Master Song was one of the founding fathers of the country. They had to maintain a smooth surface. In private, Mr. Song naturally knew his daughter's character well. He knew that the antique vase must have been broken by Song Enshi, so he secretly gave the muse a lot of benefits and let the matter pass just like that. Although the matter was said to be over, it had always been a thorn in Xiao Yichen's heart. Chapter 404. Daddy won't like this liar. Just as he was thinking this, he heard Mu Yaja say, "Yes, I like Enshi the most, too." Xiao Yichen was fuming. Like Enshi the most? What? What about him, then? Daddy likes this little rascal the most, then what about him? Does Daddy not love him anymore? Feeling aggrieved, the little boy bitterly said, "Daddy loves Enshi the most, then what about me? What about me? Ha! Brother Mu, look, Xiao Yichen can get jealous too." Song Enya smiled and squatted down to coax him. "Xiao Yichen, be good. Auntie likes you the most, too." Xiao Yichen pursed his lips, obviously not accepting her flattery. He hid behind Mu Yaja and said, "But I don't like Auntie." Mu Yaja was a little helpless. "Yichen, be good. You're an elder brother, you should give in to your younger sister." Song Enshi was a year younger than Xiao Yichen, so she had to call him elder brother. He understood this principle, but looking at the smug little guy hanging on his daddy's body, Xiao Yichen could not pretend to be magnanimous no matter how hard he tried. Still, since daddy had spoken, he should give daddy some face, right? Thus, the little guy nodded his head reluctantly, reaching a consensus with Mu Yaja. Song Enya smiled. "Brother Mu, why are you free today? Did you want to bring Yichen out to play?" To celebrate his birthday with him, Mu Yaja said concisely. This tone of his was a rare show of patience. He had never been patient with women. Song Enya, however, was an exception. That was because she was his most beloved cousin. "Oh, then I wish Xiao Yichen a happy birthday. I was in a hurry and didn't prepare a gift for my baby." Song Enya smiled. Her superficial birthday greeting did not sound sincere at all. It was just a facade, and little Yichen was embarrassed to hear it. She continued, "What a coincidence. Since we've bumped into each other, why don't we play together? It's more fun to play together. And she wants to play with Uncle Mu." "Uncle Mu, Uncle Mu, Uncle Mu." Song Enshi, who was in his arms, kept cheering as she waved her hands excitedly. Her dependence on Mu Yaja was extraordinary. Mu Yaja only nodded slightly and reached out to gently scratch the bridge of her nose. That was a sign of agreement. In fact, he preferred to have a daughter more than a son. As a man, he always liked to have a little princess to hold in his palm like a pearl. He liked the shy and cute little loli to act coquettishly. As for Song Enshi, he treated her like half a daughter. Song Enshi immediately cheered. Her eyes curved into two crescent moons, looking extremely adorable. She played around in his arms, looking joyful and harmonious. Song Enya, who was watching from the side, was also smiling sweetly. She completely forgot about little Yichen and only chided, "Enshi, stop fooling around. Come down quickly. Why do you keep letting Uncle Mu carry you?" As she spoke, she did not reach out her hand, nor did she have any intention of taking the child from Mu Yaja's arms. This scene reflected in Xiao Yichen's eyes. No matter how he looked at it, it looked like a warm family of three in the garden, laughing and chatting happily. It was as if he was an outsider. "Daddy," little Yichen opened his mouth with a face full of resentment, but before he could finish speaking. Chapter 405. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw the 2 VIP tickets in Mu Yaja's hands. She asked in surprise, "Brother Mu, did you buy VIP tickets?" "Yes." "That's great. In that case, you and Xiao Yichen won't have to queue up for any games." Sigh. "I went to the official website yesterday to get tickets, but I couldn't get them. There were only 200 VIP tickets sold every day. It symbolized the supreme VIP experience, so it was not something that could be bought with money." Mu Yaja naturally had his ways of getting VIP tickets. Hence, he took out his phone and made a call. Not long after, a representative from Liji Holdings delivered 2 VIP tickets to him. Since he had met them, he would bear the sisters' expenses on his tab. Song Enya stuck out her tongue mischievously. Although she was elated, she put on a reserved expression. "Brother Mu, you've spent so much money." The man smiled. The cost of these 2 VIP tickets was nothing to him. Xiao Yichen stood at the same spot, feeling a little lonely. He suddenly felt that he had been left out. For some reason, he could only watch as the 3 of them walked forward. Mu Yaja was carrying his small bag in one hand and hugging Song Enshi with the other. Song Enya was holding a helium balloon, and the 3 of them were laughing and chatting happily. For some reason, he felt a pang in his heart all of a sudden. The two sisters from the Song family had suddenly barged into his birthday and snatched away his daddy, who was supposed to be with him the whole day. Now, he, who was supposed to be the star of the day, seemed a little lonely. He did not know why, but he did not look forward to this birthday as much as before. Hence, out of spite and wanting to attract Mu Yaja's attention, he deliberately walked very slowly and even lagged far behind, hoping that his daddy would focus more on him. Such weak hope seemed a little petty and pitiful. Mu Yaja was also worried about him. Seeing him walking very slowly and looking around, he called out to him from time to time, "Xiao Yichen, follow closely. There are a lot of people here, don't get lost." When Xiao Yichen heard this, he felt even more frustrated. Stupid daddy, did he purposely walk so slowly just to wait for him to say that? What he wanted wasn't such a simple sentence. Could it be that only children who knew how to cry and throw tantrums would get sweets? Could it be that he had always been independent and had even undergone wilderness survival training? Was that why daddy wasn't as worried about him as he was about other children? Was it because of this? Xiao Yichen's heart felt stuffy and sour. Even though he knew that his daddy's love for Song and Shi was only superficial and that his daddy loved him the most in his heart, but, looking at such a scene, he had to pretend to be happy no matter what. Gradually, he lost his interest in the garden. His head drooped as he slowly followed behind. It was a strong contrast to the overjoyed and happy appearance he had when he first entered the garden. This birthday was even worse than the past. "Uncle Mu, I want to ride the merry-go-round." Song and Shi pointed at the dreamland-themed merry-go-round, her eyes shining. "Boring." Xiao Yichen said softly, his face full of disdain. "What's so fun about this?" Chapter 406. "Uncle Mu, come and play with Enshi. Come and play with Enshi." Song and Shi continued to act coquettishly and pouted her lips. Her coquettish look was irresistible. Mu Yaja turned around and asked Xiao Yichen, "Chen, do you want to play?" Xiao Yichen replied without hesitation, "What's so fun about the merry-go-round?" "I don't like to play." "Then, wait for daddy for a while, okay?" Mu Yaja said as he carried Song and Shi to play. Song Enya lifted her skirt and followed closely behind. The little lad snorted and leaned against the railing as he watched the three of them get on the merry-go-round. It felt as if he belonged to two different worlds. Daddy, on the other hand, was no longer in his world. Little girls liked romantic and dreamy things. Fairy Tale Valley's merry-go-round suited Song and Shi's taste. Sitting on the merry-go-round, she felt as if she was in a beautiful dreamland. When the merry-go-round ended and they walked out, Song and Shi still seemed unsatisfied and kept clamoring for another round. Unable to persuade her, Song Enya could only look expectantly at Mu Yaja. The latter clearly did not want to ride the merry-go-round a second time. A big man, who was 1.9 meters tall, sat on the merry-go-round with nowhere to put his long legs, so he could only sit sideways with the child in his arms. As the merry-go-round turned, many pairs of eyes focused on him, making him feel very uncomfortable. He did not like this feeling. Thus, he said, "You play with her. I'll accompany Xiao Yichen to take a look." Song Enya knew how to read people's expressions. She knew that although Mu Yaja had always indulged her and her sister, there was a limit to his patience. Thus, she did not insist on it and carried Song and Shi away. Song and Shi stared at Mu Yaja with wide eyes and pouted. She felt a little wronged and disappointed, but she did not cry or make a fuss. Mu Yaja walked toward little Yichen, only to see the little lad leaning against the railing with a forlorn expression. He seemed to be in low spirits. Knowing that he had neglected him a little, he felt a little unhappy. "What do you want to play?" "Daddy will play with you." Mu Yaja hugged him and coaxed him gently. The little guy, however, turned his face to the side. His eyelids were drooping, and he did not look very happy. "There's nothing in particular. Didn't you just say that you want to play the tower?" Mu Yaja gently replied, "Daddy will sit with you." I don't want to. Little Chen threw a tantrum and stubbornly turned his back on him. He did not want to bother with him anymore. Mu Yaja ignored the boy's tantrum, though, and carried him to the Tower of Babel. At first, Xiao Chen resisted unhappily and struggled in his arms. However, no matter how much he struggled, he was nothing more than a little kitten throwing a tantrum to Mu Yaja. Children were always easy to coax. He easily soothed his little mood and brought him to the tower. After buckling his seatbelt, the little guy's attention was all on the machine that was about to start. He looked around nervously and excitedly. 3, 2, 1, following the urgent countdown, the machine was on the verge of starting and instantly lifted them 30 meters into the air. The sudden rise, the pressure of the pressure, and the view from above made Xiao Chen scream uncontrollably. Mu Yaja, who was standing at the side, appeared to be calm and composed. Chapter 407. Compared to the high-altitude parachuting that he had done during his special training, this event seemed like a child's play. It was merely a 30-meter-high parachute jump, but it didn't hurt him at all. Children, on the other hand, were different. Whether it was their physical or mental state, they were much weaker. Therefore, Xiao Chen's screams and laughter could be heard throughout the entire process. When the game ended, Xiao Chen was still in a state of shock, but he still wanted to continue. He felt that the Tower of Babel was very exciting and fun. Most children would naturally want to try something fun again, and he was no exception. Thus, Mu Yaja played with him again. When they walked down the Tower of Babel for the second time, Xiao Chen held Mu Yaja's hand and danced around excitedly. He kept explaining the beautiful scenery that he had seen during the process of ascending. In an instant it was as if all the unhappiness from before had vanished into thin air. Children were just that innocent and cute. They wouldn't remember anything for too long. After that, Mu Yaja seemed to have realized that he had neglected Xiao Chen by always carrying Song and Shi in his arms. Feeling guilty, he continued to carry Xiao Chen in his arms and didn't put him down. His energy was astonishing. Xiao Chen was much heavier than Song and Shi, but he continued to carry him in his arms and couldn't bear to put him down. Every time Song and Shi opened her arms and asked Mu Yaja to carry her, Xiao Chen would immediately wrap his arms around Mu Yaja's shoulders. This was a silent declaration of his exclusive rights. Every time this happened, it was Song and Shi's turn to pout and stomp her feet in anger. She was in a bad mood. However, no matter how unhappy she was, no matter how much she cried, Mu Yaja never hugged her again. At least for today, he had to accompany the little guy. Otherwise, it would be meaningless for him to rush back to celebrate his birthday with him. Xiao Chen's happiness was the most important thing right now. Nothing else mattered to him. Song and Shi looked at Xiao Chen, who was once again occupying Mu Yaja's arms. Her expression was so ugly that it was as if she had swallowed a few flies. Every time she finished a game, she wanted to be hugged by Mu Yaja, but Xiao Chen refused to leave Mu Yaja's arms. There was nothing she could do. Song and Shi's face was contorted in anger. Xiao Chen felt his mood lighten up when he saw her deflated expression. Song and Shi saw this and was jealous. Therefore, when everyone was taking a break, she mentioned that she wanted to eat dessert. Mu Yaja wanted to buy some desserts for Xiao Chen, so he asked them to wait in their seats and rushed to the dessert station. Song Enya gave a few more words of advice before following closely behind. Only the two little lads were left on the other side. Xiao Chen was bored, so he took out his favorite toy and fiddled with it. Song and Shi also wanted it when she saw it, so she reached out to snatch it. Xiao Chen nimbly dodged her little paw and said unhappily, "Didn't your mommy teach you manners? How can you casually take other people's things?" Song and Shi snorted. "Tsk. Cheapskate, drink some cold water. Do you think I care about your lousy toy? I don't want you to care about it either. You're the cheapskate." Xiao Chen stuck out his tongue and made a funny face. This time, the little lass was completely enraged. Humph. I think you're obviously jealous of me. You're jealous that Uncle Mu likes me more than you. What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Yichen sneered. Daddy clearly likes me the most. Who do you think you are? Chapter 408. With her hands on her hips, Song Anshi pointed at him and announced the truth arrogantly. Xiao Yichen was a little angry. He was supposed to be confident, but when he thought of his daddy's doting gaze when he hugged Song Anshi, he felt a stab in his heart. Indeed, he felt a little uncomfortable. Even the little one's tone was not firm enough. You're spouting nonsense. How am I spouting nonsense? Didn't you see it just now? Uncle Mu likes me a lot. Don't you dare deny it. Song Anshi was spoiled rotten at home, so her words were unforgiving and aggressive. Xiao Yichen said angrily, Who do you think you are? You're a member of the Song family, an outsider. How can Daddy like you? I'm the one Daddy likes the most. That's me. Look at the birthday present he gave me yesterday. It's very cool, isn't it? As he spoke, he flashed his smartwatch at her. His good-looking eyebrows raised proudly. This was considered a show-off. Song Anshi's attention was immediately drawn to the watch on his wrist. She had never seen such a novel thing before, so she leaned over to take a look. Xiao Yichen pushed her head to the side with a look of disgust. Don't come over. Go away. Why did you push me? Song Anshi was a little angry. She clenched her little fists and yelled at him. Because you're ugly. Humph, you ugly freak. Xiao Yichen sneered with his poisonous tongue. He did not expect that this sentence would completely enrage Song Anshi. He actually called her an ugly freak. Although the little girl was only 5 years old, she still had a heart for beauty. Song Anshi had been the apple of the Song family's eye since she was born. She had always been held in the palm of their hands, afraid that she would break or melt in the mouth. She had been doted on since she was young. Everyone's praise for her was nothing more than beautiful, cute, obedient, sweet, and so on. Therefore, she had always thought that she was cute and pretty. However, Xiao Yichen's sudden appearance of an ugly person inevitably angered her. In a fit of anger, Song Anshi pounced on Xiao Yichen and bit his wrist with all her might. It was as if she wanted to bite off a piece of flesh from his arm. Xiao Yichen did not expect her to bite him. In the midst of the pain, his subconscious reaction was to push her away forcefully. But one had to know that he was different from other children. How much strength could other boys his age have? He was a child who had gone through hellish training in the special training camp. Although his strength was not great, he could still easily lift the Barrett M99. Song Anshi was caught off guard by this push. She staggered a few steps back and tripped over her own feet. Then, she fell on her face in a sorry state. Xiao Yichen hurriedly looked at his arm where she had bitten him. There were 2 rows of deep bite marks. There was no blood, but they were very deep. It was obvious that she had bitten him hard. He furrowed his brows in anger. When he raised his head, he saw Song Anshi hugging her head and not moving at all. After a brief moment of silence, Song Anshi sat on the ground and hugged the back of her head. She opened her mouth and let out an earth-shattering wail. It was unknown where the tears came from or if it was really that painful, but Song Anshi broke down. Big drops of tears fell from her eyes like pearls from a broken necklace. Chapter 409. Xiao Yichen was bewildered by the sudden turn of events. He did not do it on purpose, nor did he use much force. It was just a subconscious reaction from the pain. Why was this brat so weak? Some kind-hearted tourists immediately went forward to help her up, but when they touched the back of her head, they were shocked to find their hands stained with blood. Ah, her head is bleeding. Hurry and call an ambulance. Yes, it's a little serious. Xiao Yichen took a step back in shock when he saw this. He did not expect things to turn out this way. He did not use much force, and he did not do it on purpose. He remembered that he had controlled his strength. Coincidentally, Wuxia and Xianxia were returning from buying desserts when they heard the girl's childish and hoarse cries from afar. Xianxia's heart skipped a beat and she immediately rushed over. She saw Xianxia sitting on the ground, crying her heart out. A few tourists around her tried to comfort her, but to no avail. And Xianxia was so frightened that her face turned pale. She threw the desserts aside and hurried over to carry her daughter. This hug was terrible. When the child saw her family, it was inevitable for her to be pretentious. Xianxia cried even harder and louder. She pointed at Xiaoyichen, who was standing motionlessly at the side, and complained, He bullied me. He pushed me and called me ugly. Boo-hoo. And she is in so much pain. When Xianxia saw her crying hysterically, she glanced around and saw the fresh blood on the hands of passers-by. Alarmed, she touched the back of Xianxia's head. When her fingertips came into contact with sticky blood, she was so frightened that her heart skipped a beat. Wuxia walked over, completely unaware of what had happened. When he saw Xianxia crying sadly and Xianxia's hands stained with blood, his face turned cold. What happened? He asked. At the man's question, Xianxia, who was in Xianxia's arms, cried even harder. It's all Muichen's fault. It was Muichen who pushed me. Sob, sob, sob. He said I was ugly and that Uncle Mu didn't like me. He even pushed me. Xianxia's heart ached as she glared fiercely at Xiaoyichen. However, Xiaoyichen did not cower under her gaze and glared back at her fiercely. Xianxia was infuriated to see him glaring back at her with such self-righteousness. Unfortunately, Xiaoyichen was Wuxia's favorite child after all. He wasn't her child, so she had no right to scold him. Therefore, she could only glare at him. All of a sudden, all the accusations were directed at Xiaoyichen. He was stunned and suddenly lost his footing. For a moment, he didn't know what was going on, but he was inexplicably condemned by everyone. It wasn't like that. She wasn't telling the truth. What was going on just now? Xiaoyichen's mind was in a mess for a moment. Subconsciously, he walked to Wuxia's side and carefully grabbed the man's broad hand. In response, Wuxia held his hand tightly. Xiaoyichen raised his head pitifully, only to see Wuxia looking at him with a clear face. What happened? Yichen, give me an explanation. Daddy, Xiaoyichen hurriedly opened his mouth and said aggrievedly, I didn't push her. Chapter 4:10. It was just a subconscious defensive reaction under the immense pain. Xianxia was livid. Her beautiful face showed a hint of anger. Yichen, you're too much. I didn't reprimand you for Brother Mu's sake. And she is already in this state, her head is bleeding, yet not only are you not apologizing, you're even trying to shirk responsibility. I've always heard that the Muse nurture their children's sense of responsibility. If you have half of your father's sense of responsibility, you won't say such things. As if she could not vent her anger, she walked up to him with Xianxia in her arms and asked aggressively, Are you saying that? And she fell down herself and framed you for it? She won't lie. Besides, she's fine. Why would she fall down for no reason? Are you saying that she's lying? Little Yichen's face flushed red from this aggressive interrogation. His entire smiling face was flushed red. He pursed his lips and clenched his fists, pretending to be calm. I didn't push her, I didn't push her. I'm a man, I won't lie. Xianxia said, You call yourself a man, but shouldn't a man be responsible? Since you said that you're not lying, then tell me, how did my Enshi fall down? Boo-hoo. Sis, he's lying. He's clearly the one who pushed me. In his arms, Xianxia's cries grew louder and louder. She wailed loudly as tears rolled down her cheeks. Xiaoyichen was so angry that he lost his rationality. She was the one who bit me first. It's her. She was the one who bullied me first. How can you bully her just because she bit you first? Song Enya's face darkened. You're the older brother. And she is insensible, shouldn't you give in to her? Xiao Yichen was at a loss for words. Why? Why did she question him like this? Was it because Song Enshi was the one who suffered the most in the end, so all the mistakes deserved to be forgiven? He was only acting in self-defense. Even if he lost control of his strength in the end and hurt her, should he be condemned by everyone? Moreover, he clearly remembered that he hadn't used much strength earlier. He really hadn't used much strength. If he were to use force, he would know his limits. With the strength he had exerted just now, Song Enshi would at most be pushed to the side. She wouldn't fall so hard. But if he said that she fell down by herself, would anyone believe him? Would Daddy believe him? Xiao Yichen looked at Mu Yaja worriedly, only to see his cold gaze land on Song Enshi's face. Seeing that the situation was a mess, he suddenly said, "Have you said enough?" As soon as he spoke, the scene immediately quieted down. Perhaps men were born to be kings. As long as he opened his mouth and ordered everyone to be quiet, everyone would have to be quiet. Because of his words, the situation was stabilized a little. There's no point in arguing about this now. The most important thing now is to send the child to the hospital and take an X-ray to see if there are any major problems. Sigh. What should we do? Enshi has never suffered like this. Xiao Yichen was so angry that he didn't say anything. What was this little bit of suffering? He had suffered all kinds of hardships in the special training camp. Such a small injury would at most require 2 stitches. Mu Yaja squatted down and held Xiao Yichen's shoulders as he said in a deep voice, "Yichen, apologize to your sister first, okay?" Chapter 411. No. Xiao Yichen insisted. Mu Yaja's face instantly turned cold. You won't even listen to Daddy anymore? Daddy's words are wrong, I won't listen. Xiao Yichen felt aggrieved, but on the surface, he still looked very determined. How could he admit defeat in front of the sisters? I won't apologize for something I didn't do. Then tell Daddy, did you push your sister? Mu Yaja asked seriously. Xiao Yichen was speechless for a moment before he forced out 2 words. I pushed, then, he nervously explained, that's because she bit me first, and I didn't use, since you pushed her, shouldn't you apologize when she fell? Mu Yaja guided him patiently. He did not care what other children did wrong, he only cared about his own child's sense of responsibility. Even if he did not push her hard, he still pushed her. Xiao Yichen was partly responsible for her fall, so he wanted Xiao Yichen to lower his head and apologize. You should reflect on your mistake. Xiao Yichen had always taken Mu Yaja's words as an order. He wanted to quickly resolve this matter, so even if he was unwilling, he still obediently lowered his head in Song Enshi's direction. I'm sorry, Enshi. It's my fault, I shouldn't have pushed you. However, his apology did not make Song Enshi stop crying. Still, the only thing he could do was apologize. Now that he had done this, whether or not he was forgiven was no longer his concern. Uncle Mu, give me a hug. Song Enshi ignored Xiao Yichen's apology and only opened her arms to him with teary eyes. This time, her request for a hug was not something Mu Yaja could refuse. Song Enshi seemed to have achieved her ultimate goal when he took her from Song Enya's arms. Her crying stopped abruptly. Xiao Yichen felt a little sullen, but more than that, he was filled with anger. When he looked up, he met Song Enshi's eyes, which secretly flashed with a hint of success. He clenched his fists so tightly that they cracked. The person in charge of Liji Holdings rushed over. On this day, Li Hanlin happened to be inspecting a new project in Fairy Tale Valley. When he heard that a child was in trouble, he immediately contacted the medical staff and rushed over. When he saw the people in front of him, the corners of his eyes twitched slightly. Headmaster Li. Mu Yaja narrowed his eyes, clearly recognizing him at a glance. Huh. What a coincidence. Li Hanlin said awkwardly. Hello, Chairman Mu. The medical staff came over with a stretcher. They wanted to take Song and Shi from Mu Yaja's arms, but little and Shi refused to let go. She insisted that Mu Yaja carry her, so they had no choice but to compromise. Uncle Mu, will you accompany me? Okay, be good. Uncle Mu will accompany you. Okay. With Uncle Mu by my side, I'm not afraid of anything. Song and Shi sobbed, looking very pitiful. Xiao Yichen stood alone on the spot until he saw Mu Yaja carrying Song and Shi into the ambulance. In a moment of panic, he hurriedly asked, Daddy, aren't you going to celebrate my birthday with me? Let's get in the car together. We'll accompany Shi to the hospital first. But today is my birthday. Xiao Yichen argued with a forced smile. Mu Yaja's eyes turned cold, and his voice deepened. I'll accompany you to play next time. Let's forget about today. Forget it. How could he forget it? Xiao Yichen stubbornly refused to budge and stammered, I don't want to. Chapter 4:12. What? I said I don't want to. I don't want a next time. I only want today. I want today. Daddy, play with me. Xiao Yichen vented all the grievances and bitterness in his heart. He rarely cried, but when he blurted out these words, his eyes couldn't help but moisten. What next time? Was there really going to be a next time? But, why? It was his birthday today. He had been looking forward to it. It was rare that his daddy was willing to play with him. Yichen, don't be so willful. I want to stay and play. I don't want to accompany her to the hospital. I don't want to. Xiao Yichen pouted. His willfulness provoked Mu Yaja's displeasure, so he coldly said, then play by yourself. Anyway, he had already informed the person in charge of Fairy Tale Valley beforehand. Even if he wasn't around, there would be someone to accompany the little guy. If he wanted to play, then he would let him play to his heart's content in the amusement park. With a bang, the car door slammed shut. The ambulance screeched away. Xiao Yichen stood rooted to the ground, dumbfounded. Even after the ambulance had left for a long time, he still couldn't react. Did his daddy abandon him? Did he not want him anymore? He seemed to have been a little willful just now. But was he going to leave him alone to punish him? But what did he do wrong? Why did he have to punish him like this? It was obvious that Song and Shi had played some tricks to snatch his daddy away from him. He should have obediently gotten into the car and shouldn't have been so willful to say that he wanted to stay and play. However, he was holding back his anger and was unwilling to compromise. It wasn't because he was obsessed with his birthday, but because he felt wronged. Why was everything he had been looking forward to being destroyed so easily? He clearly didn't do anything wrong and had a clear conscience, but his daddy didn't believe him. What could he do? Xiao Yichen hung his head low, and his mouth twitched uncontrollably. He wanted to cry, but he, who had never shed tears, held it in. As if in a fit of pique, he fiercely wiped away the tears at the corner of his eyes with the back of his hand. When he looked up, his expression was still cold and silent. Leave, all of you. Let's go, let's all go. Even if he was alone, he could still enjoy himself. Li Hanlin walked up to Xiao Yichen and squatted down beside him. He was amazed that the little guy looked so much like President Yun. Normally, twins rarely looked so similar. Young Master Mu. Li Hanlin smiled and stuck his face close to Mu Siju, trying to please him. Xiao Yichen responded with a cold look. Don't touch me. Without Mu Yaja around, he seemed to have returned to his old Xiao Yichen, cold, stern, and taciturn. Xiao Yichen picked up his backpack and walked towards his next target. He said, I'm going to play by myself. Don't follow me. How could Li Hanlin listen to him? Before Mu Yaja left, he had specifically asked him to take good care of this child. Thus, Nanny Li said, send a few people to follow him secretly and protect him. Don't let him find out. Yes. Thus, the group of bodyguards followed Xiao Yichen in a grandiose but cautious manner. How could Xiao Yichen, who had undergone special training since he was a child, not notice? However, he didn't have the heart to care so much. Chapter 4:13. Since we're here, let's have some fun. Therefore, the Tower of Babel, the Fire Beacon Wheel, the Ice Mountain Snow region, whatever was exciting, he sat on the roller coaster and used the momentum of the roller coaster to vent all the dissatisfaction and grievances in his heart in the form of screams. It was as if he could only feel better this way. He had never been a weak child, but today's incident had left a scar in his heart. He had always thought that girls were innocent and romantic, but Song Enchi's actions had completely overturned his understanding of girls. I hate girls. I hate Song Enchi. Xiao Yichen's body swayed slightly when he alighted from the roller coaster. Now that the sun was gradually getting hotter, he raised his fair little face and looked at the weather. Now that the sun was shining brightly, the temperature was rising, but no matter how bright the sun was, it was as if it could not shine into his heart. No matter how he played, he did not have the happiness and joy he had when his daddy was with him. I hate birthdays the most. Xiao Yichen muttered as he sat alone on the bench, hugging his small school bag tightly. Sure, it's been hard on you today. After the photo shoot, Mushi sent Yun Sure out of the building and said with a smile, I'll send you the photo shoot when it's done. Thanks. She suddenly thought of something and quickly asked, oh, right. Do you have Weibo? Weibo? Don't tell me you don't use Sina Weibo. I don't have the habit of using Weibo, Yun Sure admitted honestly. I'm usually very busy, so, haha. No matter how busy you are, you should still have the time to check Weibo. You're not like my sister, who has a child and spends all her time with him, so you don't even have the time to check Weibo. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yun Sure's expression froze. She had hit the nail on the head. In the past, she was very busy with work and spent all her time at home with Yu, so she did not even have an account on Weibo. However, her assistant did not know about this, so she had to keep the child a secret for now. As for her private life, she wanted to keep it a secret. At least, she did not want Yu's life to be disturbed in the future. Hence, she smiled and said, I'll apply for one when I get back. Let me know when you're done, I'll get UAV certification. She then waved her hand. Wait for my notice. When Yun Sure hurried home, Yun Tianyu was already eagerly waiting for her in the living room. When he saw her return, his little face seemed to glow with brilliance in an instant. Initially, he thought that his mommy would be very busy, and he did not know if she would be able to keep their promise. Hence, he did not have high hopes for her. Therefore, as he sat on the sofa and read the financial newspaper, Yu did not have much hope. However, when he saw that Yun Sure had returned earlier than the agreed time, his usually calm heart actually trembled a little with excitement. Mommy. Yu's face seemed to be covered by a layer of sunshine as he ran 2 rounds around his mother and threw himself into her embrace. Mommy, Yu, I love you. Good boy. You must have waited for a long time. Yun Sure's unhappiness seemed to have dissipated at the sight of him. Chapter 4:14. This baby had such an ability. When she saw his smiling face, it was as if it could drive away all the gloominess. It was very healing. No. Mommy came back very early. As he spoke, Yu pulled Yun Sure into the room. He took out 2 sets of casual clothes and said, Mommy, let's change into this. It's a mother and son outfit. The mother and son outfits were pink-blue in color. They had the same design, but the sizes were different. It was a mother and son outfit from Liji Holdings. This outfit was designed by Yu himself. There was a heartwarming drawing of a father, a mother, and a cute child in the middle. This unique and childish drawing was very popular. He had wanted to draw this drawing for his mommy, but he felt that his drawing was not good enough. Hence, he had been hiding it and did not dare to take it out for fear that his mommy would not like it. One time, he had a whimsical idea and decided to use this drawing on the outfit. He did not expect it to be very popular. This outfit is, oh, Grandpa bought it. Yu said, I was shopping with Grandpa yesterday. I saw this mother and son outfit and thought it was very interesting, yes. The drawing on this outfit is very nice. It's very childlike. Unspoken said with a smile. Really? Yu blushed shyly. Mommy said that the drawing was nice, which meant that she liked his drawing. Yu covered his mouth and laughed secretly. He raised his eyebrows proudly. Because of Unspoken's praise, he felt sweet and happy in his heart. Unspoken changed into the outfit and then helped Yu change into the outfit. Unspoken liked to use her brain when it came to children's outfits. Yu was also very cute. Hence, whenever she brought him out, he would always attract a lot of attention. He attracted a lot of attention. She tied a British-style scarf around his neck, paired it with a pair of British flag-designed sneakers, and put on a pair of sunglasses. The little guy instantly transformed into a handsome and adorable model from a children's fashion magazine. The temperature today was a little high, so she didn't forget to put a hat on him. She turned his shoulders and looked at him from head to toe. Unspoken immediately pretended to be a fangirl and said, "Little brother Tianyu is so handsome." Yu was amused by Unspoken's exaggerated praise. Her face was a little shy, but more than that, she couldn't hide her joy. Mommy, stop fooling around. The mother and son stood in front of the mirror to compare their looks, and they were overjoyed. Everything was ready, let's go. The mother and son got into a taxi and headed to their destination. Along the way, the sun was shining brightly outside the window. Tianyu leaned against Unspoken with a look of contentment. His head rested on her arm as he looked at the greenery flashing by outside the window. The scattered and mottled sunlight of early summer seemed to be cut into pieces. It filled his eyes with distinct black and white colors like beautiful stars. Mommy, Yu raised his head with a rare innocence in his eyes. How good would it be if I never grew up? Unspoken asked curiously, why do you say that? That way, I can always stick to mommy. As Yu spoke, he slowly added, I'll never grow up, and you'll never grow old. We'll always be like this. How good would that be? His tone was very serious when he said this. Unspoken was a little amused by his serious expression, but she saw him frown suddenly. That won't do, though. Chapter 4:15. Yu can only protect you and not let anyone bully you when you grow up. Yu hugged Unspoken's arm and sweetly said, no matter what, Yu will protect mommy until we're old. No matter who bullies mommy, Yu won't allow it. Mommy, if anyone bullies you in the future, you must tell Yu. Yu will bully them back for you. Unspoken happily smiled and nodded, but she did not take his words to heart. She took it as a child's babble. Thus, by the time Unspoken and the little lad reached Fairy Tale Valley, it was already noon. There were fewer people queuing at the entrance than in the morning, but it was still a long line. The enthusiasm for the amusement park did not diminish. Many tourists had traveled thousands of miles from other provinces and even countries. They bought tickets and entered the venue one after another. Although the long line was not as exaggerated as in the morning, the crowd almost drowned the entire square. Still, through the entrance, one could vaguely see the sea of people in the amusement park. It was evident that Fairy Tale Valley was a popular theme park. Tianyu had specially chosen Fairy Tale Valley for this trip. Firstly, it was rare for him to go on a trip with his mommy. He wanted to choose a place with a good reputation so that his mommy could take advantage of this rare free time to relax. Secondly, he was here as a shareholder of Lizhi Holdings to inspect the park. He stood at the entrance of Fairy Tale Valley and scanned the decorations at the entrance. Mentally summarizing the flaws in them, he let Yunshishir lead him through the VIP passage into the park. Fairy Tale Valley had been around for 2 years, but a year ago, Fairy Tale Valley's reputation paled in comparison to other theme parks. Yun Tianyu, however, believed that the business opportunities of theme parks were limitless. If they were properly developed, the profits it could bring to the company would be immeasurable. Thus, as a shareholder, he secretly observed the situation under the accompaniment of Li Hanlin. From the design of the game and the introduction of the project machine to the cooperation with N.E. Corporation, the second phase of the project was completed a few months later. Fairy Tale Valley seemed to have welcomed its rebirth and its reputation soared. Many of the projects were personally designed by him. Therefore, when he entered the park, he did not need the park guide. He closed his eyes, and a clear drawing appeared in his mind. The division of each theme area could be seen at a glance. "Mommy, let's go to Fantasy Manor to play," he suggested. "All right." Yunshishir smiled and held his hand, walking towards Fantasy Manor with little Munchkin. However, the two people who were in high spirits did not notice the lonely and dejected figure sitting on the bench at the side. Xiao Yichen vaguely saw 2 familiar figures from the corner of his eye. When he looked up, Yunshishir and little Munchkin's figures were quickly buried in the endless stream of people. A trace of confusion flashed in his eyes. He stood up and searched through the crowd. However, all he saw were unfamiliar faces. "Little brother." Xiao Yichen frowned slightly. He had a very strong telepathic connection. It was as if the child that appeared in his dream was now in the same world as him. Fantasy Manor was a theme park designed for children below the age of 8. Most of the attractions here were suitable for parents and children to play. Chapter 4:16. For example, the merry-go-round, bumper cars, and rocket towers. You could not forget about those high-altitude thrills and wanted to try the trapeze, but his body was not suitable for such thrills. He had a congenital heart deficiency, so he was not suitable for high-altitude thrills. Although he felt that it was a pity, he gave up on it for the sake of his health. There were many interesting activities in Fantasy Manor. After playing a few of them, the mother-son pair did not feel tired at all. It was rare for Yun Tianyu to let go of the messy thoughts in his heart and devote himself to the blissful holiday. Yunshishir took this opportunity to take a few photos of him. The little lad was quite photogenic and had a good sense of the camera. Even if he just stood there and did nothing but smile, his fair skin and handsome face made him look like a handsome model. He was so adorable. After touring around Fantasy Manor, the mother and son duo didn't seem to be tired at all. They rested for a while on Sweetheart Street and planned to set off for the next scenic spot. Yunshishir was afraid that the weather would be too hot, so she bought a dessert for the little guy at the dessert station. At this time, the advantage of the VIP ticket was apparent. As long as one had a VIP ticket, all expenses in the manor were free. Yunshishir was secretly surprised. She did not know the value of these 2 VIP tickets, so she secretly praised Li Hanlin for his thoughtfulness. What she did not know, though, was that, as the biggest shareholder of Lizhi Holdings, these 2 VIP tickets were just a matter of a phone call to Yun Tianyu. Yu liked the mango and strawberry flavors, so Yunshishir specially bought him a mango and strawberry 2-toned ice cream for him to hold in his hands. Yu licked his lips in satisfaction. He scooped up the first mouthful of ice cream and sent it to Yunshishir's mouth. "Ah! Mommy, you're hot, too." "Thank you, baby." Yunshishir took a bite. The ice cream was very soft and fragrant. It melted in her mouth. She raised her eyebrows in surprise and gave 2 thumbs up. "It's delicious. Yu, try it too." Yu smiled with her watery eyes and took a bite as well. The soft ice cream immediately melted in her mouth, accompanied by a rich milky aroma and a sweet fruity taste. It was sweet but not greasy. With just one taste, he could tell that this ice cream was authentic. It was made with real fruits, and there was no skimping on the ingredients. He was very satisfied with this. Sure. Not far away, a faint call could be heard. Due to the hubbub of the crowd, Sure did not hear it clearly at first. She was so focused on the little lad, who was enjoying his ice cream while walking beside her, that she did not hear anyone calling her from behind. Until a woman holding a child walked up to her and patted her on the shoulder. "Are you Sure? Sure?" Sure was startled. Turning around, she saw a mature and charming young woman with thick makeup on her face. Her facial features were not outstanding, but they were still considered good-looking. Sure. It's really you. I thought I mistook you for someone else," the woman said agitatedly. "Do you still recognize me?" Chapter 4:17. Jianghu. Sure blurted out the name in a daze. Aya, you still remember me? Huh. It's been a long time since we last met. I didn't expect to see you here. Jianghu smiled politely and held her hand tightly, looking very affectionate. Sure's lips tugged into a smile as well. She laughed along with her friend, but she felt extremely awkward inside. Speaking of which, this Jianghu was her university classmate and also one of her desk mates. Under normal circumstances, when an old classmate met, they would be very excited, and they would even hug each other and cry. After all, they were classmates for 4 years in college, and they shared many beautiful memories of their youth. Alas, Sure was not in the least bit excited. It was because when she was in college, she was not popular. To be precise, since she was in college, she was not popular. Her classmates were just acquaintances. Except for Xiao Shui, she did not have any classmates that she could talk to. After so many years of college, she did not make any friends. One of the reasons was that she was a bit introverted at that time. She did not like to communicate with others, and did not know how to communicate with others. The communication barriers made it difficult for her to integrate into the group. However, in the eyes of others, she became a girl who was arrogant. So be it. She did not care about other people's opinions. After graduating from college, her youth came to an end. Her classmates had left their Weibo, WeChat, QQ, home addresses, and even contact information for each other. However, she had disappeared after taking her graduation certificate. She had not left any contact information. It was as if she had never existed in this class from beginning to end. Without her, the class reunion was never complete. No wonder Jianghu was so excited about today's accidental meeting. After all, Sure was a legendary campus belle when she was in college. She was born beautiful, had a beautiful appearance, dropped out of college, and had an illegitimate child. The rumors about her were too mysterious. Therefore, she was a mysterious figure in the history of college. Yu held the ice cream and stood beside Sure, secretly sizing up the woman in front of her. From her words, he heard that she was his mother's university classmate, but she looked a little old. If he didn't know that she was the same age as his mother, he would have thought that this woman was in her 30s. It was no wonder that Yu felt that way. After Jianghu graduated from university, she broke up with her boyfriend. Under the arrangement of her family, she hurriedly got married. Now, she was a mother of 2. She had recovered well after giving birth, but giving birth to a second child had a subtle effect on her body. Therefore, when she stood next to Sure, she looked a little old. Today, they were here to celebrate Children's Day with their eldest daughter. Jianghu carried her daughter and said, "Xianxian, come, call me Auntie." "Auntie." The little girl called out timidly. She was about 3 or 4 years old and looked very obedient and cute. Sure smiled faintly. "Good girl, Xianxian." Jianghu quickly stood beside her. At this moment, she was attracted by the little one who was sizing her up. She said with surprise in her eyes, "Wow, this child is so cute. Is he yours?" Chapter 4:18. As Unspoken spoke, she held Yu Yu's little hand and instructed, "Yu Yu, aren't you going to greet your auntie?" "Hello, auntie. My name is Yu Yu. Auntie is so classy." Yu Yu greeted her sweetly with a bright smile on his little face. He was not afraid of stage fright at all. "Oh, oh, oh. You're so cute. My heart is about to melt when you call me auntie." Jianghu was a woman who liked children very much. She could not resist Yu Yu's sweet advances. She called him adorable and leaned over to ask for a kiss from Yu Yu. Mwack. Although Yu Yu was unwilling to do so, he gave her face and leaned over to kiss her cheek. Jianghu beamed with joy. "Yu Yu is so cute. Sure, you're so lucky." Yu Yu smiled but secretly turned his back to them. He took out a handkerchief from his pocket and wiped his lips vigorously with his back facing Unspoken and Jianghu, d***. "It's all foundation, the perfume is so strong, if it wasn't for mommy's sake." When he secretly wiped his mouth clean, he saw that Jianghu had already put Xianxia down. The little girl walked up to him and looked at him in a daze. She opened her arms and shyly asked for a kiss. "Xianxia also wants a kiss from little brother." Yuntianyo's perfect smile froze a little. The corners of his lips twitched, and he discreetly hid behind Unspoken. Xianxia leaned in front of him, hugged Yu Yu's shoulders, and pretended to kiss him. "No." When Jianghu was not paying attention, Yu Yu gave her a disdainful slap on her face and coldly pushed her away. Xianxia was not sensible. She simply liked this handsome and cute little brother standing in front of her. When she was pushed away, she looked a little aggrieved, but she still opened her arms and pounced on Yu Yu tightly. Thus, the two little guys ran around Unspoken, chasing each other around her. Jianghu smiled and said, "Your baby is so cute. How old is he?" 6 years old. Unspoken smiled and did not mince her words. This time, it was Jianghu's turn to be stunned. 6 years old. 6 years old. Did that mean that Unspoken gave birth to this child when she was 18? She became a mother's mother at 18 while she was still in college? Jianghu's SSSS, right? There was a rumor about you being an unmarried mother. Clearly, she was to her was not to talk to her zzz. Jianghu nodded and cleverly did not mention it again. Since they had bumped into each other, Jianghu suggested that they go sightseeing together. Although Unspoken was a little reluctant, she did help her during their college days, so she could not reject her. "Will we disturb you?" Jianghu asked worriedly. "If you don't mind, let's go together. Look at my Xianxia, she likes your Yu Yu a lot." She saw Xianxia sticking closely to Yuntianyo's back as if she had been possessed by a fangirl. Yuntianyo smiled, but deep down, he despised this little lass. After packing up, the four of them set off for the next scenic spot. Not far from them, Xiao Chen carried a small school bag and followed closely behind. From time to time, he would raise his wrist. On his wrist was the smartwatch that Unspoken had bought for her as a birthday present yesterday. Chapter 4:19. This watch had a GPS function. If two identical watches were less than 100 meters apart, they could locate each other through Bluetooth. Coincidentally, Yuntianyo was wearing the same watch today. Also, he forgot to turn off the Bluetooth function when he was testing it. Xiao Chen followed the blinking dot on the watch's display screen. "Mommy, look, there are so many people there." Yu Yu pointed to a spot not far away. It was crowded with tourists and looked very lively. Unspoken looked in the direction he was pointing and saw a sea of people. "There are so many people. It looks so lively. It must be an interesting game. Let's go and take a look," Yu Yu said coquettishly. Xianxia gave her permission. "Mommy, Yu wants a hug." Yu opened his arms in front of her and requested softly. The sun was a little hot now, and the little guy could not stand the heat. Besides, he had walked for a long time. Besides, he had to carry his small schoolbag by himself. It was no wonder he was tired now. Hence, Xianxia squatted down, carried Yu in her arms, and rushed toward the lively place. Jianghu was sitting on a bench and sending a WeChat message. She shared the photos she had taken during the game with her friends and quickly received many likes and comments. She did not have many hobbies and only liked to browse Weibo and her friends' circle. Soon, the university's alumni group was in an uproar. Someone saw her and said, "That woman looks so familiar." Someone quickly chimed in, "She looks like that Xianxia from our class." Xianxia? Is she the campus belle from our class? She took her graduation certificate and left without leaving any contact information. She just disappeared without a trace. We haven't heard from her for 6 years. For the past 6 years, Xianxia's class would organize an annual class reunion. However, because no one had any news about Xianxia, the reunion was never a success. The class leader felt very regretful about this. "Jianghu, are you with her? Tell us, is that person Xianxia?" Jianghu hugged her phone and quickly replied, "Yes, yes. Today, we met by chance in Fairy Tale Valley. I was the first to recognize her. It's been a long time since we last met, but she still remembers my name. After all, we've been deskmates for more than a year, so he still has an impression of me. Also, I'm not that aloof anymore. We're playing together now." "Are you serious? When we were still in school, she always gave me the cold shoulder when I talked to her." Jianghu quickly replied, "No way. She's very gentle when she talks to me. She doesn't put on airs at all. You're her deskmate, so at least you have feelings for her. We're different. She's always cold to us." At this time, the class leader suddenly appeared excitedly, "Oh my God. Xianxia. She disappeared for so long. I didn't expect you to catch her in the flesh." Jianghu smiled. Beside her, Xianxian tugged at her sleeve and said coquettishly, "Mommy, don't play with your phone all the time. Let's go play there. Let's go play there." Chapter 420. Xianxia and Tianyu plunged into the crowd. Who knew what kind of fun game they were playing? Jianghu, on the other hand, was still playing with her phone at the same spot, ignoring her. How could she not be anxious? Jianghu put down her phone for the time being and brought Xianxian to where Xianxia was. This place was called Happiness Street, and there were many games. Xianxia and Tianyu were in front of a basketball machine. There was a long queue in front of the basketball machine. Most of these games were as simple as they could get. The reason why there were so many people queuing was not because the games were fun but because the prizes were generous. There were dolls, pillows, Liji's hottest toys, and even Liji's out-of-print robots. Yu had his eyes on one of the prizes. It was a pair of cute dolls that looked very similar to the ones Xianxia gave him when he was young. Yu did not particularly like to play with toys, but perhaps he was still a child by nature and could not resist cute dolls. When he was young, Xianxia gave him a bunch of cute teddy bears on Children's Day. They were not big and were just big enough for him to hug. Yu had always cherished this pair of dolls. He always placed them by his bed and could not bear to let anyone touch them. Perhaps it was because Xianxia gave them to him that he cherished them so much that he would personally make clothes for them. Although they looked childish now, they were still part of his childhood memories. The little guy liked to hug these 2 teddy bears to sleep every night. When he hugged the furry toys to sleep, his dreams would become very sweet. But later, the toy was taken away by Yunna's cousin without his consent. When he returned home, he found that the teddy bear by his bed was gone, so he asked around anxiously. In the end, Yunna said lightly, I'm sorry. When she saw these two teddy bears, she liked them very much, so I gave them to her. Yun Tianyu was heartbroken for a long time after hearing that. When Yun Shishir found out that Yunna had given the teddy bear away and noticed that Yu was listless every night, she searched the streets for the teddy bear. However, she could no longer find the same toy on sale. Mommy, I want those two little bears. This prize could only be won if one scored 500 points. Each goal was worth 15 points, which meant that one had to score more than 30 goals within a minute to have a chance of winning. It was a little difficult. Yun Shishir glanced at it and her heart skipped a beat. She immediately recognized that the pair of toys were very similar to the ones she had given to Yu. The little guy actually still remembered that pair of teddy bears? She originally thought that most children were forgetful, but she didn't expect him to still remember. Yun Tianyu exchanged his VIP ticket for a chance. Since it was a VIP ticket, he naturally had priority. Thus, he stood in front of the children's basketball machine, picked up the ball that had rolled down, and threw it with much effort. Clang! The basketball hit the basket and didn't go in. Yun Tianyu broke out in a cold sweat. Clearly, he was not convinced. He picked up another basketball and threw it with all his might. This time, the angle was right, and the strength was just right. He scored a goal. Yun Shishir encouraged him. That's great. Yu, do your best. Chapter 421. However, a minute passed in the blink of an eye. Even though he was panting from exhaustion, he only managed to score 300 points, which was barely half of the total. Yu pouted, clearly unhappy. His stamina could not keep up. After such a short while, his breathing had quickened, and his face was flushed red. It was obvious that he was extremely tired. Little brother, here's a tissue for you. Xianxian, who was standing at the side, shyly passed a tissue to him. Yu glanced at her and his lips twitched. He took the tissue from her and forced a smile. Thank you. It was fine if he did not smile, but when he did, it was as if the whole world had lost its color. His smile was as beautiful as a flower, and it made Xianxian dizzy and disoriented. In an instant, her face turned as red as a ripe persimmon. No. You're welcome. Xianxian's heart raced as she clutched her chest. Apparently, she was instantly smitten by his smile. She immediately turned into a fangirl of her little idol. Jianghu, who was standing at the side, took a picture of this loving moment and posted it on her WeChat Moments with the caption, "My daughter and her little idol look so compatible." He. The class group chat was already in an uproar. Jianghu clicked on it and saw an explosion of messages. Jianghu, ask around if Yun Shishir is free to attend the class reunion next month. Jianghu? Where is she? Jianghu, you must invite Yun Shishir to our class reunion next month. She replied, she may not be free. I don't care. I'll leave such a difficult task to you. Jianghu raised her head awkwardly, only to see Yun Shishir standing in front of the adult basketball machine. She had exchanged her VIP ticket for a chance to play the game. The countdown started. She took a deep look at the prizes on the display table. Her eyes were burning with eagerness to give it a try. Whoosh! 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 She made 3 consecutive shots and hit the target. The surrounding crowd burst into cheers of surprise and shock. At first, they were attracted by Yun Shishir's beauty. She was young, elegant and refined. Moreover, she was a young mother with the temperament of a star. Even though she was wearing a simple mother and son outfit, her temperament was outstanding and eye-catching. However, she did not expect that when it came to shooting, she would not lose to men. Looking at her skinny figure, thin arms, and slender waist, she looked weak. After all, shooting was a physical exercise. Who would have thought that she would be able to hit every shot? However, What they didn't know was that Xianxia was a member of the girls' basketball team when she was in junior high school. Therefore, games like shooting baskets weren't too difficult for her. But even if his shooting skills were good, after a minute of continuous shooting, his arms gradually became sore, as if they were filled with lead. At the end of the game, he had a total of 495 points, 5 points short. Xianxia's expression was extremely ugly. While feeling sorry for her, Yun Tianyu frowned in heartache and hurriedly passed her a bottle of mineral water. "Mommy, drink some water and rest for a while." "Yes. I'll play again later." Xianxia was unwilling to admit defeat. She took a big gulp of the mineral water and planned to play again later. "Forget it, Mommy. I don't want that toy anymore." Chapter 422. Forget it, Mommy. I don't want that toy anymore. Yu's heart ached when he saw that she was sweating profusely. He didn't want that toy anymore. Yu couldn't bear to watch his mommy fight so hard for him. He walked up to her and massaged her shoulders and arms, hoping that this would help her get rid of the soreness as soon as possible. "If Yu likes it, then Mommy will definitely win it back for you." Xianxia made a solemn vow. Her gaze was resolute as she gulped down another mouthful of water and exchanged her VIP ticket for another chance to play the game. Yu stood at the side, his face red and his lips pursed tightly. His heart ached for her, but he also felt warm. Xianxia was never one to admit defeat. In her eyes, there were only things that could be done and things that couldn't be done. There were no possibilities or impossibilities. Just like in her studies, she might not be a genius, but she was hardworking and hardworking. She had willpower that ordinary people didn't have. In addition, she was a little stubborn. The staff at the side was a little stunned. They had seen many tourists who came to play games for prizes, but they had never seen such a persistent person. For the sake of a prize, he repeatedly played a boring game. He had a determination that was unlike ordinary people. They were a little surprised. These prizes weren't particularly expensive, except for a few special prizes that weren't available on the market. Compared to the VIP ticket that cost a few thousand yuan, the value of the toy itself wasn't that high. She had spent a few thousand yuan on a VIP ticket, but in the end, she was competing with a cheap product in a boring game. It was really puzzling. However, Xianxia didn't care about what others thought. She only knew that Yu liked that toy and wanted it. That was enough. If she couldn't pass the first round, she would play another round. It wasn't until the third round that Xianxia barely passed the 500-point mark and got her wish to win the prize to Yu. "Baby, look, Mommy won." Xianxia squatted in front of him and gently scratched his nose. Yu was extremely touched. He gently stroked Little Bear and looked at Xianxia, who was sweating profusely but smiling brightly. For a moment, he felt a lump in his throat. "Mommy, Yu loves you." As a reward, Yu stepped forward and gave him a kiss. This was the sweetest reward. Seeing this, Xianxian, who was standing at the side, was green with envy. She softly asked, "Little brother, can I touch your teddy bear?" "Here." Yu was quite generous, and Xianxian was not annoying other than being very clingy. Hence, he let her play with the teddy bear for a while. Xianxian clearly loved it so much that she could not bear to part with it. The teddy bear was very cute, and children of her age could not resist such a cute toy at all. After playing with it for a while, she clamored for it too. Hence, Jianghu also went to play the game, but she didn't even get 100 points. This was a little awkward. Hence, Jianghu walked to Xianxian and asked her to return the toy to Yu. She tried to persuade her, but Xianxian refused to let go. Her eyes were misty with tears, and her mouth was pouting. She looked sad and aggrieved, as if she was going to burst into tears the next second. Seeing that she had no intention of letting go, Jianghu couldn't help but feel awkward. After all, the teddy bear belonged to someone else. She couldn't just take it away, right? Chapter 423. However, the child was too young to understand such things. Before Jianghu could speak again, her tears fell and rolled down her cheeks. Sob, sob, sob. Xianxian likes this teddy bear too, sob, sob, sob. Don't take Xianxian's teddy bear away. As soon as she finished speaking, Jianghu laughed awkwardly and scolded, Xianxian, stop fooling around. Quickly return the little bear to Big Brother. No. Xianxian likes this teddy bear so much. Little bear likes Xianxian too. Jianghu's smile froze. She looked up and looked at Unspoken in embarrassment. She had no choice, so there was a pleading look in her eyes. Xianxian had been pampered since she was young, so it was inevitable that she would be willful at times. She was a girl after all. She was the apple of everyone's eye and was spoiled. Jianghu knew that if she were to forcefully snatch the bear from her arms, she would definitely cry until the heavens and earth turned dark. Her crying skills were not to be trifled with. When she opened her mouth and wailed, the ground would shake. She could not afford to embarrass herself. There were so many people here. If Xianxian wanted to act shamelessly and lay on the ground, it would really put her in a difficult position. Therefore, Jianghu thought that even if it was bought, she hoped that Unspoken would give the teddy bear to her Xianxian. Unspoken was not stupid. How could she not see Jianghu's intention? She felt a little awkward. Perhaps, if it were other parents, they would make the decision on their own and agree readily to give the teddy bear to their child. At most, they would let their child suffer a little, but they would not embarrass themselves in front of outsiders. If Xianxian insisted on keeping the teddy bear and Unspoken did not agree, it would only make things difficult for both of them. People might even privately say that she was petty. An adult would stoop to the level of a child. After all, she could not be so petty with a child, could she? However, Unspoken did not think so. She believed that although toys were worthless in the eyes of adults, toys were souvenirs to children. As parents, they should respect their children, even if it was a small toy. Moreover, she had put in a lot of effort to get this toy. So, in Yu's eyes, it must be very precious. If he gave it to other children, it would undoubtedly hurt Yu. The child would think that he was being disrespected. His precious toy had been given away so casually. Hence, Unspoken walked in front of Xianxian and squatted down. First, she comforted the child. Then, she said gently, Xianxian, Auntie knows that you like this teddy bear very much. But do you know who the owner of this teddy bear is? Yes, Auntie. No, it's Yu Gidge. Unspoken pulled Yu to her side and said to Xianxian, this toy belongs to Yu. Auntie really wants to give it to Xianxian because Xianxian is so cute. But this toy is Yu's favorite playmate. Xianxian, do you have a favorite toy? Yes, there are many at home. Xianxian held back her tears and replied with a sob. Then, if your mommy gives your toy to other children without your permission, will Xianxian be angry? Of course I will be angry. Very, very angry. Xianxian said angrily. Chapter 424. So, Xianxian, are you willing to return this plush toy to brother? Unspoken asked gently. When she saw Xianxian's expression waver, she lowered her head reluctantly and added, Auntie will win another pair of plush teddy bears for you later, okay? Yu's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. His face turned pale instantly. The little munchkin's heart ached when he thought about how his mommy would have to play games to appease this brat. Hence, when Xianxian reluctantly returned the plush toy to Yu gritted his teeth and pretended to be generous as he pushed the toy back to her. I don't want it anymore. I'll give this plush toy to you. Xianxian's eyes widened in surprise. Jianghu was also surprised by Yu's maturity and generosity. She immediately urged her. Xianxian, hurry up and thank brother. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother. Xianxian loves Yu the most. Yu turned his face away proudly. But he did not like her. Yun Shishir stroked Yu's head gently. She felt sorry for his generosity and maturity. Yu is so warm. You know how to give in to your sister. You can't stoop to the level of a child. Yu shrugged helplessly when Jiangli could not hear them. Yun Shishir did not know whether to laugh or cry. Did he forget that he was still a child when he said that? Yun Shishir was surprised when she saw that he was so generous to give the toy to Qianqian. She thought about winning another prize for Yu. Hence, when Yun Shishir saw the 1.5-meter-long plush toy on the stage, she stopped in her tracks. Yu, do you like it? I like it, but, all right. Wait for mommy. With that, Yun Shishir walked forward. The condition to win this prize was to use the toy gun to burst 20 balloons within 60 seconds. 20. Yun Shishir's eyes lit up. Killing 20 players within 60 minutes wasn't a very harsh condition. During her military training in university, shooting was part of her discipline. Therefore, she was quite confident in winning this prize. However, this idea was completely dispelled when she picked up the imitation toy gun. It was extraordinarily heavy. It was about the same weight as the gun she used during military training. Moreover, it didn't feel good to the touch. Although it was heavy, it looked very inferior. After weighing it in her hand, she finally managed to get used to it. The staff member walked over and was about to ask when Yun Shishir flashed her VIP ticket. The staff member understood what she meant and announced a few important points and some rules of the game. As soon as the rules of the game were explained, Yun Shishir lost her confidence. It turned out that this game was not only about strength, but also a certain amount of luck. Just popping the balloons wasn't enough. Popping a balloon would drop a point coin. If he wanted to win the giant panda, he had to pop 20 balloons within 60 seconds and reach 200 points. It was a little difficult. There was no such thing as a free lunch in the world. However, it didn't matter how difficult it was. Since he was already here, he might as well play to his heart's content. Hence, the game began. The bullet accurately hit the balloon. But it didn't burst. However, generally speaking, the smaller the balloon, the more elastic it was. The bullet shot from the toy gun didn't have a strong impact. If the angle wasn't accurate enough, it would be difficult to burst the balloon. The balloon was elastic enough to bounce off the bullet. He fired 5 rounds in a row, but all of them missed. Chapter 425. Yun Shishir was a little depressed. Time flew by. Of course, when the time was up, Yun Shishir put down the toy gun dejectedly. In 60 seconds, she had only popped 8 balloons. Her luck was not bad, though. The coins that dropped were relatively large, but the number was too small, so the total score was only 150 points. Yun Tianyu went forward to hug the toy gun. His body almost swayed under the weight of the heavy gun, so he quickly put it back to its original position. It was so heavy. Yun Shishir told him helplessly, "This game is too difficult." "Forget it, mommy." Yu smiled faintly without much regret. "Let's go somewhere else to play." Yun Shishir nodded, carried him, and left with Jiangli and the rest. Just as they left, a smart little head popped out from behind a nearby lamppost. Xiao Yichen walked out with his school bag. He watched Yun Shishir and the rest leave slowly, but he was not in a hurry to chase after them. He raised his wrist, turned on the smart GPS, and set Yun Tianyu as his target. Thus, he walked to the shooting game table, pursed his lips, and slapped the VIP ticket in front of the staff. Earlier, he was hiding behind the lamppost and secretly observing Yun Shishir and Yun Tianyu's every move. Finally, he found the same smart watch on the latter's wrist. Only then did he realize that the target he had been tracking was actually him. The child he met at the gala last time? Was it his younger brother? It must be his younger brother. There was no other person in the world who looked so similar to him. This face had appeared in his dreams countless times, and it was extremely familiar. He did not know what telepathy was, nor did he know what relationship this child had with him. However, he subconsciously felt that this child was his younger brother. He really had a younger brother, this was not a dream. Although he was surprised, he was not in a hurry to expose himself. Instead, he secretly followed them. He saw Yunshirsha repeatedly challenging a boring shooting game 4 or 5 times just to win a plushie for Yun Tianyu. When he saw the other children fighting for the toys with Yun Tianyu, Yunshirsha did not side with the other children. Instead, she protected her child's feelings. He saw Yunshirsha's pitiful and touched expression when Yun Tianyu gave up the toy. He even saw her playing a boring shooting game in order to win another prize for Yun Tianyu. Everything had been witnessed by his eyes. It wasn't like there wasn't any envy. This was especially so when Mu Yaja cruelly left him alone at the amusement park. His loneliness and disappointment only intensified when he saw the heartwarming interaction between the mother and son. While he was sad, he was also looking forward to it. He longed for a mommy like Yunshirsha who would protect him, love him, and take care of him. He was also envious of Yunshirsha. No matter when, where, no matter what he did, his mommy would always stand by his side and not side with the other child. When he saw that Yunshirsha's game did not meet the standards, he vaguely made up his mind. "Little brother, are you the one playing?" The staff walked over and curiously sized him up. Seeing that he was alone, she worriedly looked around and searched for his parents.